On a rich and fertile land, there existed an empire with an ancient and glorious history. The first empress of this country possessed all the signs of noble birth. She had blonde hair that shone like the sun's rays and eyes like the blue ocean. Only members of this family received the blessing because blue blood flowed in their veins. They were loved by everyone without exception. But one day, the woman noticed that something strange was happening with her hair colors. One of the emperor's concubines gave birth to his child, and this child inherited traits inherent only to members of the imperial family. Thus, a child with blonde hair and blue eyes was born. Many could not even believe that she was really the daughter of a concubine, because she looked very much like the empress. No one could have imagined that an illegitimate child could be so similar to the monarch's children. The nobles whispered about it everywhere. However, the emperor remained silent until the princess disappeared from the people's memory. Luana's mother scolded her and asked how she dared to touch her brother. The mother always tried to come to terms with her daughter's terrible eye color, and it wouldn't hurt to change her ugly hair. She hated poor Luana for her appearance, and the girl felt that she had let her mother down. Even her father did not want to see her, and she was not nearly as loved as her brother Louis. Luana thought she should try harder, but she didn't understand what kind of actions she could do to please her parents. She turned 18 years old. Her mother told her that she had already asked her to behave quietly more than once. Luana prayed for her mother to help her, because she felt that she was dying because of the one who gave birth to her. The girl didn't understand what she had done wrong. Everything should have ended then. She didn't want her ending to be exactly like this. She made her choice. To survive in this world, she needed to find her own way. Luana ran up to the blonde boy, and he looked at her with bewilderment. She said she wanted to meet the empress. The guy was very surprised by her words and did not know how to react to it correctly. Once upon a time, she had a terrible dream. Luana was 8 then, but in the dream she was 18. Her birthday was coming soon. But the dream turned into a real nightmare. She went into the room because her mother called her, but once inside she felt alarmed. The maid was dead. Luana wanted to tell her mother about this, but she was already there. The mother approached her daughter and told her that she had nothing to worry about, then kissed her. She told Luana to remain calm. The girl was in shock because her mother was behaving unusually. She was speaking in a quiet voice. Mom asked her if she wanted to be loved. She said that Luana always wanted to help her mother, which means now is her chance. Luana didn't understand anything, and her mother reminded her that the maid had called her cruel, and when she dared to speak to her, her mother's hand accidentally stabbed her with a knife. Luana realized that she had to run immediately because she no longer understood who was in front of her, her mother or someone else. Mother reminded Luana that she had already asked her to be quiet, and then she began to beg for mercy. On her 18th birthday, her mother's first gift was death. Liliana said that Luana should be where she could help her mother with chores, but that wasn't what Luana wanted. The princess did not understand why everything was happening as if she had to die, and so she screamed that she did not want this. After this, Luana woke up. The maid was frightened when she saw the princess screaming in her sleep. Maria said that Luana had frightened her with her screams, and that despite all attempts to wake her, this was the first time that the princess had woken up on her own. She also reminded that today is Louis's birthday. But Luana didn't understand anything. Just recently, she was next to her mother, and suddenly a voice was heard saying that if Liliana wasn't going to scold her, then there was no point in making a fuss. She needed to calm down. The girl looked around and realized that she was in her room, but she couldn't remember if she had ever been like this before. Somehow this place seemed familiar to her. Looking at her hands, she noticed that they had become smaller, as if she were 8 years old again. For a moment, she thought it was a dream. She was 18, and this nightmare had lasted too long. Luana Belcom is the princess of the empire, one of the twins born to the emperor and his concubine. Even though she grew up with the title of princess, her mother always hated her for no reason. Louis' life was very different. Even in this dream, Liliana loved only her son. She never smiled at her daughter. Everything repeated itself as in reality. The mother began to scream, and everyone around immediately became rude, and they seemed to forget the princess herself. Now, Luana had a feeling that something bad was about to happen. She felt like Liliana was about to come in and be terribly angry. And that's what happened. Liliana came in and immediately started screaming. And all this happened on Louis's birthday. The mother ran into the room and started yelling at Luana, asking a lot of questions. She demanded that she dared to touch the cake and her son because it was his holiday. Liliana, Luana's mother, accused her of ruining what her brother was so happy about. She said she would ask for an explanation of what exactly Luana did, but not today. She then grabbed the girl and said that the punishment would be very severe. Luana couldn't say a word. She felt like she had been through this before. It was indeed a story from the past. 10 years ago, one of the maids accidentally ruined the cake and blamed Luana for it. It was disgusting, and the whole situation was like a nightmare. Or maybe this nightmare was actually a prediction. If so, then she was no longer sure that everything that was happening was just a dream. She was scared and felt like she was going to throw up. Liliana asked Luana if she was even listening to her. Matt said that if Luana wanted to be a good daughter, she should listen to her mother. She needs to think. Maybe if she is quiet and humble, then they will love her. Liliana threatened to lock the doors, and Luana should not even think about escaping. The girl felt a strange tremor. Perhaps all this was somehow connected with what she had dreamed. Luana was locked up for several days, and her dream repeated itself over and over again. Every time she remembered him, she began to think. A few days later, she again found herself thinking that she was terribly hungry and couldn't even remember how much time had passed. She dreamed of drinking at least a little water. She didn't remember everything, and she couldn't believe that the same dream kept coming. Then it became clear to her. All this terrible thing would definitely happen to her, and she did not understand why Liliana hated her so much. Luana realized that her blonde hair and blue eyes made her look completely different from her mother. She didn't resemble her father either. Everyone was confused when she was born. It was too. Her appearance was strange. Perhaps the reason why her mother treats her like that is precisely this. But now was not the time for such thoughts. If that dream is truly prophetic, then Luana needs to avoid death. In these visions, she didn't know the future. But what if that Luana wasn't the real her? This means that the only one who can help her exists somewhere. And it is with him that she needs to meet as soon as possible. Her father is the emperor, and if Liliana had ever asked him for anything, he would have done it without hesitation. So there is no way he can help her escape. Luana's father never visited her. If she wants to survive, she needs to find someone. The genealogy of the imperial family was very confusing. The current emperor was himself illegitimate. The empire did not recognize a woman's right to the throne, so the princess could not become a ruler on her own. She married a prince from a distant land who became the new ruler of her homeland. In her status as empress, she was supposed to give birth to an heir, the real ruler of this empire. She is the empress by right. They only obey the emperor. Her brother Luis is nothing like Luana. Her fair hair and blue eyes proved that she was the true heir of the imperial family. Luana was sure that if the empress saw her, she would definitely protect her. The woman Liliana hated so much could be the only one who could save the girl. But the door was locked, so Luana didn't understand what to do next. First, she needed to find the empress. Luana knocked on the door and asked if there was anyone behind it. There was no sound coming from inside, and if someone was locked in here, then sooner or later everyone would come here. So she screamed, hoping that someone would answer if there were any living beings in the room. Luana didn't understand why she found herself behind a door she had already passed. The door slammed shut on its own, and she didn't even have time to notice it. She thought it was some kind of trap, perhaps set by her mother. There was a strange feeling. She felt anxious, but it quickly disappeared. Now she knew for sure that she had to hide immediately. Luana overheard the maids discussing where they were going to go today. They said that they could avoid the hassle of walking and just relax. She was almost noticed, which made her very scared. Luana wondered why there was so much dust on the curtains. It was obvious that they hadn't cleaned it. If she went out, she would be noticed immediately because of her bright hair. So she needed to cover her hair with something, and she decided to use curtains. Covering herself with them, Luana tried to reach the palace where the princess was, but she doubted whether she would be able to find her way. She would have to leave the room, and without her mother, she did not dare. Today was the first time Luana had left her home, but she had to keep moving. It seemed like someone was following her. She felt like she was being followed. Or maybe her imagination was so overactive that she began to think that someone was looking at her. She decided not to stop and move on, suddenly smelling the scent of flowers. He seemed familiar to her. A man's voice came from behind her, asking where she was going. It seemed she had taken a wrong turn. Luana was scared, thinking it might be her mother. The scent grew stronger, and she realized that her mother was very close. She didn't want this at all, and didn't understand how Luana could catch up with her. Behind her, she expected to see her brother Louis, the second prince of the empire, and her twin. Louis covered her mouth and quietly motioned for her to remain silent. But it wasn't him. It was a completely different young man. Although Luana didn't know it, she still thought it was Louis in front of her. Meanwhile, their mother called the prince to her. The empress said that this was not the place where he should be, but Louis replied that the roses here were incredibly beautiful and he admitted that he would like to admire them a little longer. The empress said with a smile that all these roses were grown especially for him. She reminded him that he was the boss in this palace, and the boy of course agreed with her. Luis was Luana's twin brother and their mother's favorite son. Never before had the empress spoken to Luana like this, never given her even the shadow of a smile. The girl could not understand why her mother only loved her brother. She also wanted to be loved, so she cried bitterly. The young man standing behind her noticed that she was crying and immediately apologized. He thought he might have frightened her, and added that he understood if she was irritated. He knew she was trying to hide, and he just wanted to help. He couldn't understand why this girl was shaking so much. Thinking that he might have done something wrong, he suggested they talk a little. He said she seemed scared and advised her to just breathe calmly. He hoped that she was already feeling at least a little better. Luana couldn't figure out who he was at all. It seemed as if she had seen this young man somewhere before. The boy smiled and said that luckily he noticed her before the night did. Luana still couldn't understand why she felt like they had already met. Maybe he really is from her dream, and maybe it has something to do with the prophecy again. Luana felt that there was some kind of connection between them, and decided to ask him what his relationship was with the emperor's family. The young man replied that she seemed to have misunderstood him. He was not a stranger here. He had come to the second prince's party with his father. Everyone was telling him to be more friendly, but this only irritated him. If it had not been for the empress's order, he would not have come at all. He wanted to meet the princess, but he could not find her anywhere. When Luana realized that he was not dangerous, the guy asked if she was taking part in the celebration, and Luana confirmed this. Luana was wearing a robe, most likely she was planning to run away from here, or something like that. The boy believed that this holiday was bad for only one reason, and he was very happy to learn that he was not the only one who did not like this celebration at all. It seems that Luana thought the same, or was trying to hide some of her secrets from everyone. Luana said that was exactly it, but she wondered why he was looking for Her Highness. The guy explained that the Empress had invited all the nobles, which meant that the princess should also appear at this evening. And he really thought so, although he did not rule out that she still would not come. However, everyone always believed that Liliana was not her mother. When Luana turns 8, she will be able to enter noble society and figure all this out. Today she turned 8. Now she should understand what he was talking about. He added that this was also the princess's holiday, which meant she had to be there. Luana had to go out to accept congratulations, and then she understood everything. She remembered that today was Louis's holiday, and wondered why she hadn't thought of it right away. It was her birthday too, just like Louis's, but she didn't even remember. If Louis could accept congratulations, then she could too. It turns out that she, like him, has the right to expect that someone came to congratulate her. So Luana said that it seemed like it was her birthday today, and the guy asked in surprise if it was true. Luana realized that she had said this by accident and was very scared. And he heard this and said that he could give this gift to Her Highness, but it seemed that luck was on her side today. He was going to give the gift to the princess, but now he thought that he could give it to another person. That's why he wanted to give this bracelet to Luana. He took her hand and added that it was a great honor to present the gift in person. He made this bracelet himself, and everything is fine. Today, Luana should also receive congratulations. He was sorry that he couldn't congratulate the princess, but in any case, he and Luana had the same birthday. Now it's not so important. The guy knew that Luana had a holiday today and gave the gift to the one he originally wanted. Luana thanked him and he wished her a happy birthday. He also said that it was time for them to leave before she caught a cold. Although it was hard to get sick in this weather, maybe he just said that because Luana looked tired. The button on his shirt indicated his noble origins. A flower was depicted on the shield. Luana thought it was good to have a person like him around. When Luana finds the Empress, she will definitely find that young man too. They will cross paths again, and then Luana will learn his name. The knight asked the Duke, although it would be wrong to say so because he hated Liliana, and the prince and princess were his younger brother and sister. Even the aristocrats did not neglect this holiday as much as the Duke did. Then the Duke asked who else the prince and princess were, since he considered himself the only heir. It was the son of Empress Ludon Belcom, now 18 years old, who claimed that the other two had fake statuses. The knight wanted to object, but he understood that the reason Ludon felt disgust towards those children was due to the pain and emotional wounds he received as a child. Liliana betrayed the emperor, which drove him mad. He began to neglect the affairs of the empire. The emperor left the empress to live with Liliana in another palace. Over time, he stopped visiting his eldest son altogether. Liliana effectively took away Loudon's beloved father. In the end, this boy was left alone. How could he not hate her children? The knight noted that he had heard that the princess had light hair and blue eyes, the same as the heir to the dynasty. Loudon simply waved it off, saying that it was nonsense. The emperor always had ash-blonde hair and pale blue eyes, and that courtesan is not like them at all. She cannot be part of the imperial family, and false rumors will not help her. If the princess were truly their blood, she would have been allowed to stay. It was high time to repeal this ridiculous law. Because of an old decree from the first emperor, a woman cannot inherit the throne. And now so many people are suffering. The empress only deals with state affairs, but she is not allowed to govern the entire empire, just because she was born a woman. And they can't change that. He will understand everything when he ascends to the throne. But for now, Loudon thinks that this is just ridiculous. When he becomes emperor, the first thing he intends to do is change this law. As they passed by, Luana noticed that someone's hand was visible in the bushes. They were very scared and could not understand what it meant. The knight immediately stood in front of the crown prince, and then they saw in front of them a girl with blonde hair and blue eyes. Luana had absolutely no idea why the prince was there and was very scared of him. The maids in the palace said that Loudon was a cold man, and there were rumors that he hated anyone who had any connection with Liliana. He even insulted Louis publicly. Meeting this man could have led to real problems. The knight asked who the girl was, but she decided not to give up until they helped her to her feet and made her feel safe. The prince ordered his servant to step aside because he himself wanted to see who was hiding in the bushes. And then he saw some child in front of him. He noticed Luana, and she realized she had been caught. He was going to take her back to Liliana's estate. The prince wondered if the rumors about her were really true. Loudon immediately realized that it was Luana Belcom in front of him. He leaned over her and asked if she was laughing at them. He asked the girl why she was there, and Luana, frightened, realized that he seemed to have an idea who she was. She became even more frightened when she noticed that she no longer had her little toy. She may have dropped it while running away. The knight immediately realized that this seemed to be a princess. Her dress was dirty, her hair was disheveled, and her shoes were clearly the wrong size. But she was supposed to spend this day at a party on the occasion of her birthday. The princess looked scared, as if she was being chased, and Loudon said he would ask her again why she was there. Then Luana said that she wanted to meet the empress, and the prince's face immediately changed. He asked why she needed the empress. He saw no reason for it. Suddenly, the knight stood up for Luana and told Mr. Loudon not to talk to the little girl like that. The prince did not understand how the knight could interfere. After all, this girl was Liliana's daughter. Her mother had once hit her, and Loudon remembered her leaving the palace, but he didn't understand what she was doing here now. The knight reminded that she had indeed been beaten by her own mother, but the girl quietly said that she was very hungry. Maybe this was her last chance to say something she should have explained more. But the strength was gradually leaving her body. She passed out saying something about her mother. The prince hoped that the knight would not drag her to the palace, but he insisted that a doctor should be called. Liliana's estate was nearby, and Loudon believed that the knight should return the girl there. But the knight reminded her that the girl was hungry, and Loudon replied that she was simply Liliana's daughter, and he was not going to do her any favors. The recipe quickly approached the gentleman, not holding back his irritation, and sharply demanded that he stop acting like a complete fool, because now the situation called for prudence. Then Ludon, holding back his emotions, turned to the knight and asked what he intended to do, since he himself did not have good feelings for Liliana and had openly shown this before. The knight calmly reminded her that despite everything, this little princess was still his sister, which meant that Ludon should stop hiding from the truth and look her straight in the eye. He mentioned that although the girl was 8 years old compared to other children, her age she seemed too small, exhausted and weak, as if her body had not grown with the years. When Ludon asked him in bewilderment what he meant, the knight calmly clarified. Her body was noticeably emaciated, and her clothes were hanging in tatters, having long since lost their decent appearance. Moreover, under this worn fabric, there are wounds that the girl clearly hides, not wanting anyone to see how much she has suffered from the indifference of others. One child can laugh carefree all day long, while another lives in fear and pain. And the knight could not help but notice this monstrous difference in the fates of the two children. It was because of this injustice that he wanted to talk to the palace doctor, hoping to get confirmation of his suspicions, and perhaps help for the princess. He couldn't deny it. The girl really didn't resemble the second prince at all. There was a chasm between them, as if they weren't part of the same family. Perhaps the parents are affectionate towards their son, only because he has inherited Liliana's traits, and thus becomes a more acceptable child to them. Louis and Loudon were brothers only through their father, but in the case of the girl, it was a completely different matter. Her relationship did not fit into their usual scheme, and perhaps she was simply ignored. Waking up, the girl opened her eyes with difficulty and saw the figure of the crown prince nearby. Her mind was clouded, but she clearly realized that he was carrying her in his arms. She didn't understand where he was taking her and why everything was happening so unexpectedly that she could only watch what was happening in silence and confusion. When Ludon carried her to the chambers, the maid looked at the girl in surprise and carefully asked who this little girl was that the crown prince was holding in his arms. The prince noted that he had already mentioned that she was Liliana's daughter, but the girl could not accept it. She did not see any resemblance to her mother, as if someone else was looking at her from a mirror. He thought she was just trying to find her good side. But the maid calmly noted that the girl really did look beautiful, and that these were not just words of encouragement, but a sincere opinion. Everything that was happening around them now was the result of someone else's actions. The prince felt that they were acting on his territory, and this did not give him peace, as if they were violating the boundaries. He and Adam still didn't fully understand how serious the situation was. The girl agreed. That's it. But she made it clear. Getting rid of this girl wouldn't be easy. Adam, however, considered this whole drama absolutely pointless. He didn't understand why it was so complicated when everything could be solved more simply. In his opinion, it was a stupid waste of time and effort. The prince was repelled by her very presence. This was the woman's daughter standing before him, and he couldn't understand why no one around him seemed to grasp the meaning of his words and emotions. Then the doctor was called. He entered calmly, ready to begin his examination. Everything looked official and familiar, but the atmosphere in the room was tense and cold. An examination showed that her body was covered in scars. For healing, the doctor recommended an ointment. It would speed up recovery and relieve inflammation. Otherwise, nothing serious was found. However, it was obvious that the girl was eating poorly. Signs of constant malnutrition were obvious. The little princess in the heart of the imperial palace is starving. How could this happen? No one knew what had happened to her or why she was in such a state. Curiosity got the better of him, and the doctor decided to find out who this girl was. The situation seemed too strange to simply ignore. Looking at her, the doctor noticed the color of her hair. He was sure that such features could not be confused. There really was something of the prince in her, but he immediately pushed the thought away. He knew it was impossible, so impossible that even the idea seemed absurd. The possibility existed, but they tried to hide it, and therefore the doctor's look at the prince was very strange and wary, as if he had noticed something important and unusual. The prince felt it and asked why the doctor was looking at him that way. In response, the doctor reassured him, saying that there was no need to worry. Even if there was a problem, it could be fixed with proper nutrition. The doctor added that the girl is still very small, and if she is well looked after, there will be no problems, and she will recover quickly, because a small body recovers easily. The doctor then called the girl a descendant of the crown prince, and assured her that with such support, she would get better and would certainly recover in the near future. This statement greatly angered the crown prince, and he asked with irritation what exactly the doctor had said about him and his family. The doctor noted that the prince was not stupid at all, and the knight had already realized that the situation was serious, and now they really found themselves in an unpleasant and difficult situation. The longer the doctor looked at the girl, the more he became convinced of her outward resemblance to the crown prince. It was so obvious that it was no longer possible to hide it. The doctor asked if the empress knew about this, and the boy replied that he had not told his mother yet because he was afraid of her reaction. She would be very shocked by such news. The doctor emphasized that the prince would not be able to hide the girl forever, and therefore it was better to tell the mother the whole truth as soon as possible to avoid big problems. That day, the prince agreed with the advice, and his mother remained in the palace after her daughter's death, lost in her thoughts and grief. If she sees the princess now, it will immediately remind her of that terrible tragedy that happened earlier. For her, this meeting will be a difficult and painful memory that she will not be able to forget. The knight was interested in the doctor's opinion about the girl's age and asked him how old he thought she was. The doctor noticed that the girl looked much younger than she could be, according to her documents. The doctor noted that for a child of 4 or 5 years old, her physical condition was quite normal and should not cause concern. However, the prince intervened and corrected that the girl was actually 8 years old. The doctor was very surprised and could not understand why the girl looked so small, as if she was still a baby. This fact seemed inexplicable and strange to him. He was at a loss, not understanding what this mysterious situation was, and why an 8-year-old child who looked much younger than his age had appeared in their world. Then the knight decided to intervene, as he understood everything. He explained that the girl Luana was not the daughter of the crown prince, but his sister, which came as a surprise to everyone present. The doctor was stunned by what he heard, but when he realized that they were talking about the prince's sister, his condition improved a little, and he began to perceive the situation more calmly. Now the doctor realized that this little girl was the very daughter of the courtesan Liliana that everyone was talking about, and that her connection with the prince's family was complex and confusing. The doctor tried to somehow apologize for his previous statements, realizing that he had been too harsh and impolite in his assumptions and judgments. The crown prince became angry with the doctor, unable to bear his words, and in irritation, he hit the bed with his fist, showing his displeasure and indignation. He couldn't understand how it was even possible to have a child at that age, and this thought caused him a storm of emotions, from anger to complete incomprehension of the situation. The doctor tried to explain that the girl simply reminded him of someone from the past, and that this was the reason for the misunderstanding between them. It was more like a misperception. She looks like a 5-year-old child, and the doctor asked if this was due to poor nutrition or other external factors that could have affected her development. The doctor noted that anyone could make such guesses since they are superficial and do not take into account the real reasons for the girl's developmental delay. In fact, she is far behind her peers, and this is noticeable to the naked eye, which causes concern in everyone who encounters her. The prince explained that he said this because he understood absolutely nothing about medicine and child development, and his opinion was based only on superficial knowledge. He also noted that childcare funds were regularly sent to Liliana so that she could provide them with everything they needed, and this was known to everyone. A separate budget was allocated for her son, but Liliana always asked for money for 2 children, arguing that it was necessary to take care of both of them. But the prince does not believe that the money allocated for his daughter was actually spent on her. Considering Liliana a terrible mother who does not care about the girl, she treated her daughter as if she were a stranger, and in his opinion, all funds were directed to satisfying the needs of her son, which explains the huge expenses on the prince. The prince heard that Liliana had hired a knight to teach the girl fencing, trying to ensure that she had the proper skills and protections. She also invited several professors from a prestigious academy and a famous tutor from the Tria Royal Palace to ensure a high level of education for the girl. The knight asked the prince what exactly should be done with his daughter, about whom he had asked earlier, and whether he should take on her upbringing himself. The knight then asked if he could take the girl with him to personally take care of her and take responsibility for her. The prince became angry in response and asked if the knight wanted to convince this stupid girl that she was really his daughter and belonged to him. If she ever needed someone to take care of her, the prince said the empress would definitely find a solution, and he didn't know who would want that. At this point, the maid expressed her desire to look after the girl, and the prince asked if Maria was really ready to take care of Luana. Despite the fact that Lilia had done a lot of bad things to the girl, Maria assured her that there was no need to worry and that everything would be under control and no problems would arise. She planned to personally look after the crown prince's sister and was confident that together with her butler, Vincent, they would cope with this task perfectly. Maria could become Luana's chief maid, and the prince was confident that the girl would be in good hands, although he remembered how Adam also suffered because of Lily. Despite everything, Adam also asked to take care of her, expressing his concern and desire for everything to be well with Luana. Adam believed that the girl would be safe with Maria, so there was no need to worry, and that was why he trusted her to take care of Luana. The prince gave his consent and asked Maria to inform him immediately if the girl caused her the slightest feeling of discomfort or inconvenience. He wanted to be aware of everything. He also instructed Adam to convey to Vincent the task of finding out what exactly is happening in the courtesan's mansion, because it is important for him to know how they live there and what is hidden behind the walls of this place. The knight assured that everything was done according to his instructions, and the question of whether to inform the empress or keep everything secret would be decided later based on the current situation. All this arose from fears that the empress might be disturbed by the reminder of her daughter's death, and therefore this issue must be approached very carefully and delicately. Adam realized that the prince most likely meant the very princess who died immediately after birth and whose tragedy still weighed heavily on the soul of the empress. Much time has passed, but the empress still finds it difficult to cope with the loss, and perhaps Luana's appearance can become a kind of support and motivation for her to live on. I expected that Empress Clooney's interest in Luana would be more noticeable, but the prince abruptly asked to stop talking about this girl, as if trying to protect someone from unnecessary attention. In his opinion, the girl's mother was only using her daughter to take a favorable place in society, and all these hopes were just empty, naive dreams far from reality. The prince said that he didn't care about the girl and her mother, because in his opinion, Luana would not leave any bad impression despite all her past mistakes. The prince noticed that it was not entirely fair to take a winning position in this way, but the girl was already sleeping peacefully. Meanwhile, she herself was hungry, but she was very comfortable and cozy in this dream. However, the girl soon felt that the bed was too soft for her and decided to open her eyes to understand where she was and what was happening around her. When she woke up, she experienced a real shock. She could not completely understand where she found herself and how she got there. Everything seemed alien and unusual. The room around her looked very beautiful, unusually luxurious, and it seemed to her that her mother definitely could not allow her to end up in such a place. But that was exactly how it was. She understood that her mother would never have allowed the girl to just move around freely, so someone else took care of her and decided to help. The girl tried to get out of bed, to look around better, and understand what kind of space was around her, hoping to find answers to her questions. She was surprised by the soft slippers that were on her feet. She wondered what material they were made of and why they were so comfortable. She also became curious about what kind of room it was and where it was located. Everything seemed very special and inaccessible to ordinary people. She remembered seeing the crown prince before she lost consciousness, and this made her wonder about the connection between this place and him. The girl noticed that not everyone around her thought the same way as she did, and someone clearly had a different opinion about what was happening, which made her be wary. When she left the room, everything around her looked very beautiful and unusual, so much so that it could not be compared with the place where she used to live. Everything seemed new and unfamiliar. Approaching the window, she was stunned by the view, and her clothes had also changed. Someone had dressed her in completely different clothes, which added to the strange sensations. At that moment, someone quickly ran up to her, expressing joy and relief that she had finally woken up. It was an important and meaningful moment for everyone. She noticed that both Maria and the crown prince were next to her. The prince told Maria not to frighten the girl and tried to calm her down. The prince picked up the girl in his arms, but she had no idea who he was. The maid felt sorry that she had frightened the child with her fuss. Maria immediately made a deep bow and addressed the Highness with respect, emphasizing her reverence and devotion. She said that she would take care of the princess carefully and attentively, as if promising to do everything possible for her comfort and safety. Maria introduced herself as the personal servant of the crown prince, and the girl was amazed that it was this servant who would now look after her. She was shocked to learn that Maria was the crown prince's personal maid. At that moment, the thought flashed through her mind that perhaps the prince had kidnapped her when she was trying to escape. Because of this fear, she became very scared, began to ask for help, and said that she did not want to die, her voice trembling with panic. Then the crown prince addressed her personally, and the girl, frightened, raised her frightened gaze to him, not understanding what to expect next. The sight of the prince frightened her so much that she lost her balance and began to fall, overcome with fear and confusion. The prince had absolutely no idea what was happening to the girl. Her constant falls confused him. He could not explain why she was losing strength. Maria, watching her, assumed that the girl had almost no strength left even to stand. And the little girl herself quietly asked for someone to save her from everything that was happening. The prince found it difficult to understand what this strange girl was saying. Her words sounded confused. He did not catch the meaning, but he felt that she was speaking sincerely. He lifted her carefully into his arms, as if trying not to hurt her. And with unusual gentleness, he admitted that he had not meant to frighten her and asked her forgiveness. The crown prince, who even adults feared for his sternness, suddenly spoke to her so kindly. This in itself seemed almost impossible. When he started apologizing to her, the girl was completely confused. She simply could not believe that this man was now asking her for forgiveness. The girl could not understand why at that moment the maid suddenly decided to go to the kitchen and tell the cooks to start preparing breakfast. Ludon, holding Luana in his arms, calmly said that they would go. And his voice sounded confident, as if he already knew exactly where they were going. The girl looked up weakly and asked where they were going. He responded gently by noting that she was probably very hungry and that they should eat. He asked her if she had any wishes, perhaps a food she dreamed of or loved. He wanted to understand how he could please her. Luana thought about what she wanted. She remembered the taste from her dream, something special that she hadn't tasted in reality, but she remembered exactly what it was like. She seemed especially sweet at that moment, and the prince, watching her, suddenly wondered what exactly she could be trying to talk to him about, what meaning was hidden in her gaze. He decided that she just wanted dessert, and he was right. The girl was amazed when he guessed her desire without fail, as if he had read her thoughts in advance. Perhaps she had actually eaten it in her dream, and that was why the sensation was so familiar. Something in her memory seemed to respond to the image, but now all her memories seemed to have been erased. Only the terrible moment when she died remains. Everything else has dissolved into emptiness. The gentleman assured her that he would fulfill any of her wishes when she felt better. In the meantime, he suggested that she eat something healthy to restore her strength. The girl immediately became embarrassed, quietly apologized, and he suddenly asked a simple question. Does she have a favorite soup that doesn't cause rejection? Luana thought for a moment and decided to name what she usually ate. She didn't even know any other soups. The choice was almost random. In the end, she calmly said that just a regular soup would do for her. No frills or complications, as long as it was warm and tasty. She hoped that later they would bring her dessert. If she tried that very taste, perhaps fragments of a dream would emerge, something would become clear. And maybe then, she will be able to remember the face of the one who offered her sweetness in that dream. His voice, his look, his gesture. When she and the prince entered the room, Luana froze. The space seemed alien to her, and almost frightening in its silence. The maid was already standing at the table, as if she knew in advance when they would come in. Luana decided that she was in the way, but the prince calmly ordered her to prepare any soup. The girl wondered for a moment if she was really allowed to eat in this place. Everything around her seemed too elegant and important, and she was afraid that this was a mistake. Then the prince sat her down at the table, but suddenly felt a strange embarrassment. It seemed to him that the girl was sitting too low, as if she was disappearing over the edge of the table. He turned to the maid for clarification, and she gently remarked that it would be worthwhile to choose a chair according to the princess's age so that she would be more comfortable sitting at the table. The prince nodded, agreeing that next time they would definitely find her a chair that was the right height because she should be comfortable. Hearing about next time, the girl immediately understood that this time she would not be given food. Her heart sank with resentment and disappointment. But suddenly, he carefully lifted her into his arms, and she shuddered with fear. Everything happened so unexpectedly that she did not immediately understand what was happening. He was already holding her to feed her himself, and she was stunned. She would never have thought that such an important person would feed her himself. He noticed that she seemed hungry and hoped that this method would work for her. He genuinely wanted her to feel wanted. The girl couldn't believe what was happening. Her thoughts were confused. Everything seemed like some strange dream in which she didn't understand her role. But then she tasted it. It was indeed soup. It was delicious, not at all like her usual cold and watery dishes. Although healthy soups were not usually liked by children, she ate it more willingly than anyone would have expected. Even the prince was surprised by her appetite. The girl looked at him with a slight smile and, a little embarrassed, admitted that if he didn't mind, she would like to ask for a little more because she really liked it. Ludin was surprised to see that she had already finished everything. Then the girl, slightly pressing her palms to her chest, explained that if this created difficulties, then she would not ask any more. It was not worth it, really. The prince nodded soberly, saying that everything was fine. He could not understand why she was so worried about ordinary soup and all sorts of insignificant trifles. Unlike her, Selena and Asil seemed like completely different people, with a different upbringing and attitude to everything that was happening. The girl explained that it was the first time in her life that she was trying something like this. And apparently, because of this, her reaction was too lively and a little inappropriate. After these words, she immediately asked for forgiveness, and the prince, looking at the table, thought about something of his own, not answering right away. This soup was a healthy and filling meal that even ordinary people without noble origins or wealth could afford. However, the girl, according to her, had never tried anything like this in her life, and it was a complete shock for him. He then turned to Maria and suggested that warm cocoa might make a nice sweet treat for the convalescent. The head maid replied that she would discuss it with the doctor, and the prince promised that he would personally treat the girl to a cup of cocoa tomorrow. The girl's eyes widened slightly in surprise, and he smiled, extended his little finger to her, and gestured that he wanted her to repeat his movement. At the same time, a slight tickling sensation went through her. Everything that was happening seemed incredible, and for the first time, she felt that the bright prince was truly a kind person. She even smiled, a rare expression of joy that only appeared because at least someone had finally paid attention to her, even if only briefly, even if in passing, but it was nice. The prince could not understand why this situation bothered him at all. It would seem that he himself was busy with his own affairs, but for some reason, the thought of her caught him and did not let go. Perhaps everything that was happening made him anxious precisely because she was the youngest. So small, fragile, almost invisible among the others. He noted that if she had already finished her business, they could go further. There was no impatience in his voice, but rather a slight concern hidden behind restraint. The girl said that she could walk on her own, but before he took her back to her mother, she needed to get out of here and find the Empress. She explained that he just needed to point her in the direction, and she would get there herself. Meanwhile, the prince was in Luana's palace while she was sleeping. This palace was not at all suitable for the royal family to live in. It did not feel cozy. It was more like a cold stone cage, and if she was trying to hint that this gloomy palace was help from someone, then it would have been better for her to remain silent altogether, without saying anything unnecessary. The prince informed her that her room would be located right here, in this wing, where there was silence and coolness, hidden from prying eyes. The girl was shocked to realize that this was her room. Maria noted that she had tried her best to decorate it and make it more comfortable. She tried to at least ask something, but he got ahead of her and asked if she knew who he really was. He was her brother, Ludin Belcom, the crown prince, and he certainly wasn't the type to leave his younger sister alone in someone else's palace. Despite the fact that Luana was not a pure-blooded heir in the eyes of the family, she continued to be considered one of their own, making no distinction between her and the rest of the descendants. If the girl didn't object, then she should think about staying in these chambers where she would be provided with care and relative peace. Luana couldn't believe her ears. Everything the crown prince said seemed so kind to her that she didn't know how to react to it. She still didn't understand why they treated her with such warmth. Hiding her head under the blanket, Luana still silently agreed to stay. If things continue like this, she might eventually get used to this kind of attention, even if she doesn't believe it now. Adam noted that the gentleman was coping with his duties much better than he had expected. The prince in turn asked if he would like to return home. To this, Adam explained that he was afraid of possible complications. The whole matter concerned the escort and those who might interfere. He added that this was why he had come back. Despite his brother's illness, Adam stayed late to sort things out properly. It was clear that he was worried about Luna. He also believed that his friend could handle anything that came his way. After all, the crown prince is not the kind of person who would take out his anger on a weak and defenseless child, even if he himself is tired or upset. The gentleman admitted that he felt tired. His face showed anxiety. He asked to be left alone to rest a little in silence and be alone with his thoughts. Adam nodded and without further ado headed towards the exit, but first reminded him that he had brought a small gift, hoping that it would lift the prince's spirits at such a moment. But hearing the repeated request to be left alone, the prince did not hide his irritation. Adam nevertheless took out the bottle, which he had been hiding under his cloak all this time. He noted with restraint that the prince had no idea what effort it had taken to obtain the drink he had had to contact the palace to have this particular wine sent. It was elven wine, a rare and precious drink shared with special reverence by the imperial palace itself. It was presented as a personal token of apology. Thus, the imperial house decided to compensate for the moral damage for that scandalous incident, due to which both Mary and Adam lost their father through the fault of Anna. Loudon also suffered a loss then. His mentor, a man he trusted as himself, was killed, and the same woman was the culprit of the tragedy. Luana remains his younger sister, but she is also the daughter of the woman on the other side, the enemy who destroyed the peace in their home. Adam quietly remarked that the gentleman should not think about this, should not waste energy on trifles that could not be changed. But the prince was seething. He didn't understand why Adam was calm, why he could breathe easily when he was being torn apart from the inside. He tossed back the glass, and at that very moment, a determination flashed in his head. He had to avenge the teacher's death, no matter what. Adam asked the master if he wanted more wine. His voice was cautious. He didn't want to disturb him, but he couldn't leave the prince in this state. At this time, the girl felt an uneasy sleep. She understood that if she did not wake up immediately, she would again face the consequences of her slowness. Luana woke up, suddenly sat up in bed, her heart pounding. She was so confused that she didn't even immediately realize where she was. Everything seemed like a dream. Only a minute later, looking around, she realized it was that same room again. Maria calmly approached her, and as if nothing had happened, greeted her with a good morning. This is what confused her. After all, yesterday she definitely fell asleep in the palace of the crown prince. Everything was so unexpected that the girl was confused again. And then Maria, as if nothing had happened, handed over a cup of cocoa and told her to try it. Luana was surprised, and Maria reminded her that the crown prince had promised this yesterday. And indeed, the cocoa was incredibly delicious. Luana drank it slowly, not believing that she had ever tasted anything like it. Maria added that His Highness personally arrived at dawn, gave the drink, and ordered that it be served before the doctor arrived. The maid quietly remarked that she had never seen the prince so attentive before, as if he was truly worried about Luana. Luana couldn't believe it. This man hated everything about Liliana, and now he came and brought her cocoa in the morning. Despite his dislike for her mother, the crown prince showed Luana kindness and concern, and this caused a strange excitement to settle in her heart. The girl could not understand how she had the right to accept all this from only one prince, because for her, it seemed something incredible and even strange. The name Liliana was closely linked to her destiny, like an unbreakable thread that connected her to the past and the present at the same time. Maria happily reported that the lady had already finished her cocoa and promised to prepare another portion of the warm drink for hers. The girl felt sincere gratitude for the care and kindness that surrounded her here in this large and unusual palace. Luana couldn't imagine what she would do if she suddenly lost that support, because she hoped that something like this would never happen. Although she understood that anything was possible, she politely thanked them for the cocoa and assured them that she would definitely pay them back later when the opportunity arose. After that, she turned to Maria, and she kindly said that the girl could call her simply by her name, Maria, without any titles. The girl replied that in that case she could also be called simply by her first name, without using any formal addresses or titles. However, the maid explained that she could not afford such familiarity, and the girl immediately admitted that she wanted to ask her something. She asked if this room had really been prepared, especially for her, because it was important for her to know the truth. Maria smiled, confirming that this room was indeed meant for her alone, and there was no doubt about it. Her tone was friendly and confident, like someone who knew all the details. The girl was in complete shock. She simply could not believe that they were going to give them these very chambers, which seemed unattainable and very important to her. Her emotions were overwhelmed with surprise and distrust. Maria began to tell that she grew up next to the crown prince since childhood. They had known each other for a long time. She explained that he was a very straightforward person, and unlike the princess, he was not prone to displays of tenderness and affection. The girl could not believe that such a stern and straightforward person had such a sweet and gentle sister. This world seemed very cruel and unfair in its contrast to her. At that moment, the crown prince suddenly appeared behind them, and smiling said that he knew what Maria thought of him, as if reading her mind. His appearance caused tension in the air. Maria was at first very frightened when she heard the crown prince's voice so unexpectedly close. Fear flashed in her eyes, which Luana, who was watching her, immediately noticed. However, Maria was not as scared as she seemed. She simply cried out loudly that she would not be scared so suddenly again, showing some courage and habit to such situations. The crown prince noted that Maria was quite brave to speak to him like that, and noted that she really does not allow herself to be offended, showing respect for her character. Behind them stood Adam, who also supported the prince's opinion, saying that he shared his view of Mary. At this point, the prince asked what Adam was doing there, curious about his appearance. Adam replied that he had little time, but he hoped that he had been able to please, and that his presence had been useful. His words were full of hope and a little uncertainty. He added that he had prepared a gift for the princess, which aroused additional interest and anticipation among those present, because a gift was always a sign of attention and respect. The girl was absolutely delighted with what she saw, but the crown prince and Maria noticed that the rabbit was even larger than the crown prince himself, which made them a little wary. The bracelet that Luana received the day before turned out to be an unexpected gift from a person who did not know her at all and did not even know who she was. If this gift had been intended for someone else, the guy would have definitely given it to someone else anyway, but this bracelet seemed to have been created especially for her. Therefore, the girl was very grateful and happily said that for the first time in her life, she received such a sincere and unexpected gift that touched her to the depths of her soul. The next day, the crown prince noticed this bracelet on Luana's hand, and his attention was immediately drawn to the unusual and elegant thing, which seemed very valuable. The bracelet seemed to be made by a master of the arts. Its fine work could not belong to Liliana, because she had a completely different style of jewelry and gifts. It became clear to him that it was worth learning from real professionals in order to create something so elegant and memorable, worthy even of the crown prince. Luana was very pleased that she was trusted to wear such exquisite things that seemed unusual and expensive, especially for such a young girl. She thought how great it would be if her mother also treated her as warmly and attentively as these people who surrounded her now. At that moment, Maria noticed a change in the girl's face and asked what had happened to her, because she looked different, as if something was deeply bothering her inside. But Luana only quietly said that nothing special had happened and soon burst into tears, hiding her true feelings and the pain of loneliness. Maria could not understand what was happening around her. She asked the girl why she was crying, but this only made her tears and despair worse. The girl was confused and could not understand whether she would ever be able to live happily and without fear. Anxiety and uncertainty reigned in her heart. Because of the kindness shown to her that she had never known before, her feelings became sharper and stronger, as if everything around her became sharper and more important. The crown prince thought that Adam had already gotten used to the situation. He was told that Adam had a younger sister, and this was important to understand his concern. Then the prince asked the girl's age, and Adam replied that she was younger, and that it was actually very easy to calm children down if you knew how to approach them. Adam's sister is named Aisel Mild. She is 2 years younger than her brother and is in great need of care because her health does not allow her to leave the house. Unlike Adam, who can freely walk and do things, Aisel Mild is forced to spend almost all her time at home, and her brother pays her a lot of attention. Maria sternly reminded the girl that she should not eat chocolate before bed, as it had a negative effect on her poor health and could cause anxiety. Adam thought that this was quite normal, although in reality he doubted that anyone else but him could truly take care of Luna. Then Maria asked what would happen if they told the prince's mother about the situation with the girl and her condition. The prince immediately expressed his disagreement with this proposal, and Adam noted that the empress might still find out about it later when the situation became more obvious. However, the prince stubbornly refused to agree, despite the fact that Maria assured him that the truth would come out sooner or later, and it would not be possible to hide it for long. Then the prince asked Maria if she knew about the past, about what had once happened, and the girl confirmed that she had heard about it before and was aware of the seriousness of the situation. Maria immediately apologized for her words and behavior, but the prince calmly said that everything was fine and nothing terrible had happened because once his mother often fainted. The daughter, who was given up by her mother several months after a severe shock, could no longer fully exist and live a normal life, having completely lost her strength. His mother did not want to continue living after what happened, and it was because of this that the prince became especially attached to little girls in order to prevent something like this from happening, including 5-year-old Selena, to whom he had a special affection and care, realizing how fragile and defenseless she was. If she had been treated as cruelly as Luana, he was sure that it would have been a terrible shock for Selena, capable of destroying her soul. Since he became the crown prince, it has become much easier for him to control the people around him, thanks to his position and influence. Any rumors that may appear are instantly spread throughout the capital, reaching the ears of the most influential people and creating the desired impression. Some might sympathize with Selena because her birth mother treated her badly and showed no care or love, which was pitiful. But most justified their indifference by the fact that, in their opinion, dirty blood flowed in her veins, and because of this, Luana's honor could be forever tarnished and trampled. After all these events, she will have to return to her real mother, despite all the fears and anxieties that may arise in connection with this. If this really happens, it will be very difficult for the girl. She will most likely have to face troubles and trials. His mother will wake up in a couple of days, and they will need to wait a little until the situation stabilizes and the right decision can be made. When the right moment comes, he will definitely talk to her about it to discuss everything and find the best way out of the current situations. Adam turned to His Highness and said that now he needed to concentrate on work and not put off important matters. He reminded that the documents were already on his desk, and he should not forget about his responsibilities and urgent tasks. The crown prince looked at Adam, who reassured him, saying that Maria herself would take care of the princess. Maria confirmed this, smiled, and looked warmly at the girl, showing her willingness to help and support her. She assured that she would take full responsibility and would carefully look after the baby so that she would feel safe. In addition, Maria promised to cook many delicious dishes for the girl so that she would feel pleasant and comfortable. In the evening, she served the girl soup and asked if she liked it, showing concern and attention to her tastes. The girl said that the soup was very tasty and that it was the first such delicious dish she had ever tried. Now the girl wanted something sweet, but she was forbidden chocolate, and Maria explained that she couldn't eat sweets despite her requests. The cocoa that Maria prepared turned out to be so delicious that the girl was absolutely delighted with such a treat. All her treats were simply excellent. After some time, Maria said that she would be busy with important matters, and if she needed anything, the girl should immediately call her to help at the right moment. She said that you shouldn't be shy about contacting her because you might need help at any moment, and Maria will be happy to support you in all matters. The girl thought about it, and after a while, She really wanted to call Maria to tell her about her thoughts, but she stopped deciding that perhaps someone else would come soon. She assumed that someone else might show up and help, so she tried not to rush things or interfere, trying to wait for the right moment to talk. Every time the girl entered the kitchen, all the people present watched her with interest, showing curiosity, which sometimes turned into hostility. They immediately began to discuss her among themselves, with notes of contempt, as if they did not understand why she was in this place among them. It was a mystery to them why Liliana's daughter was here, surrounded by such people, and this caused them bewilderment and condemnation. The girl decided that it was better to ignore all these looks and conversations so as not to show that it affected her, and to concentrate on her own affairs. Suddenly, she heard a voice outside the door, asking if she could come in, and she thought it was Adam, the Crown Prince's chief assistant. She thought that Adam was really standing behind the door and decided to open it to find out why he had come at that moment. When the door opened, Adam was indeed standing in front of her, holding something in his hands and looking a little agitated. He asked if Maria was there because he had come specifically to see her and wanted to personally convey something important. Adam said that he had a gift that he must give to Maria, and the girl became interested in what it could be. She didn't immediately understand what was being talked about, but she was delighted when she saw the candies, chocolate which she had long dreamed of trying. This chocolate was special, and the girl was happy that she would finally be able to enjoy the taste that she had wanted to try for a long time. Adam noticed that Loudon had been very busy lately, and it was becoming increasingly difficult to find time to talk to him, which worried the girl a little. He promised that he would visit her soon to make sure that she was okay and not worrying in vain. He wanted to show his concern and support the girl. The girl replied that she was fine and was very grateful for the chocolate that had been given to her, which had lifted her spirits and made her day brighter. Adam noted that he really had a lot of things to do and responsibilities, but the girl still assured him that she understood this and there was nothing wrong with it. She saw her mother only once a week, so rarely that it left her feeling lonely and waiting. Sometimes her mother was absent for months, and so such unexpected care now seemed especially valuable and unusual to the girl. Suddenly, Adam heard a female voice speaking to him, and it frightened him so much that he immediately turned around. Maria stood behind him and apologized for not coming earlier, as she had her own reasons for being late. She noticed a large cake on the tray and could not pass by such a gift, which was addressed to the girl. They explained to her that it is not customary to congratulate Luana, so she is rarely allowed to eat such tasty things and sweets. The girl was delighted with the cake and happily said that she would eat it all without leaving anything behind, because it was exactly what she was missing. Everything was very tasty, and the girl thought that this cake was like a magic chest with the sweetest treasures. Maria admitted that it was a gift that she wanted to give to Luana personally to please her and show her care. The girl was very surprised, and Maria immediately noticed that all this happened because no one really greeted her when she first arrived here. She was sincerely grateful that the lady was now next to them and supporting them at such a moment. Suddenly, a voice was heard from behind, which noticed that the girl was eating too much, as if someone was noticing her behavior. Maria immediately noticed that Luna was choking slightly and explained that it was all because of the Crown Prince who had frightened her. So Maria turned to the Crown Prince and asked what exactly was going on in this situation with the girl. The girl explained that he had scared her, and so she asked that next time he simply knock before appearing. Loudon noted that the girl had noticeably become bolder and more self-confident after everything that had happened. He also emphasized that this was his palace, and she was just a guest reminding her of her rights to this place. He added that he would definitely think about it, but only if she asked him politely and respectfully. The girl looking at him said that she used to think that he was a good person, but now she had doubts. She admitted that she was probably wrong about his character and attitude towards her. Adam smiled, turned to Loudon, and noticed that he was still teasing Luna, and then asked the girl to accept another gift from him. The girl took a small gift from Adam's hands and asked what it was, after which he said that it was a gift from his younger sister. The girl was simply delighted, saying that it was incredible, and admitted that she was so cute that she couldn't help but admire her. The girl was very happy because she really liked the gift, and the prince noticed that she was trying. She probably enjoyed receiving something made with her own hands. Adam confirmed that this was indeed the case, and the prince reflected that the moon was the only princess in the entire empire, and this made her especially valuable. The prince was glad that everything was fine here, and that she was having fun smiling. This brought him peace and warmth inside. Sometimes someone can control people with the help of dolls, as if manipulating them, as if playing with other people's destinies. The girl asked again what they had just said, and it seemed to her that the prince really meant it, that her power was unusual. After this, the girl fell silent and did not know what to do next. She accidentally let it slip and was not prepared for such a reaction. She thought that the prince could immediately take her back to her mother, and this scared her very much. Out of fear, the girl quickly said that she was wrong and really regretted what she said, trying to correct the situation. The prince did not understand at first what she was talking about, turned away, and said that she must be joking, not taking her words seriously. He added that, in any case, she shouldn't eat so much, because she hadn't fully recovered yet and needed to conserve her strength. The girl was very surprised when she heard this so much, so that she even asked again to make sure that she had understood correctly what she had heard. It was a surprise to her. If you think about it, the prince was almost never angry with her, except for that one time when they first met, and that situation remained in her memory. Although the girl believes that even then the prince was kind to her, as if he were made of gold, he does not hate her, but she still decided that it was worth checking whether this was really true. For this reason, she said that she agreed that she really liked the chocolate cake and that she wanted to try it, but it was too far away for her to reach. She was worried that these words might anger him, but she still said that he had helped her, as if trying to calm him down and show gratitude. The prince was at first surprised by this answer, but assumed that she simply had not heard it before, so he repeated his actions to please her. In the end, he did give her the chocolate cake, and the girl couldn't understand what was happening, but she realized that he had fulfilled her request, which made her very happy. Meanwhile, the prince asked again if this was really what she wanted, and asked Luana to close her eyes and open her mouth, ready to please him. He thought she wanted to try the taste, and the girl repeated his words, smiling in response, while the prince was amazed, covering his face with his hand in surprise. After that, he decided to feed her, and Adam and Maria were completely delighted with this act. They did not expect the prince to show such care and attention. The prince had really changed, and it was a surprise to her. The entire palace of the empress seemed to sense the change in his behavior and attitude. Idam asked with interest why the prince was there, and he explained that he considered it necessary to convey important news to his mother as soon as possible. Several days passed, and the long-awaited moment arrived when everything was supposed to happen exactly as planned. The girl was very surprised when the highest crown prince appeared before her, whom she did not expect to see in this place. He in turn noticed Countess Chart standing in front of him and instantly recognized her, which caused certain emotions. The lady greeted him with respect and asked what brought the prince to the empress's palace on that day. The prince said that he had come to visit his mother, wanting to spend time with her and discuss important matters that could not be delayed. In response, he asked why the countess was here at such an unusual time, showing interest in her affairs and circumstances. The countess explained that the empress was taking care of her daughter, showing maternal love and attention in a difficult situation. The prince noted that this was truly wonderful, because although care should come from the wife and mother, His Majesty greatly appreciates the countess's daughter. The prince could not accept this, and did not even think of entering into an argument with it or starting his own affairs, because the issue had been decided in advance and there was no point in arguing. He noted to himself that he had warned her in advance, and that she should always remember this, so that no misunderstandings or conflicts would arise in the future. The girl felt angry, because the empress loved her very much, and expected that she would be treated like a younger sister with respect and care. Then one of the maids came up to her and reprimanded her. "You can't talk so loudly in the palace," but the girl hit the maid, believing that she had no right to tell her what to do. Even if the prince hates her, she will still be under the strict supervision and care of the empress, and this cannot be changed. The countess dreamed that her daughter would take the place of the empress's heir and become a worthy successor of whom she could be proud. She was sure that this was the future that awaited her girl, and this was the main meaning of life and struggle for her. Under no circumstances was the countess going to give in and allow the prince to behave so provocatively towards her daughter. The prince came to his mother, and he was surprised to see her in such an unexpected setting and at such a moment. The empress greeted her son warmly, noticing his appearance and expressing joy at the meeting. She was delighted to see her son and immediately asked what exactly had brought him here at this time of day. The boy said he had something to tell the empress. She nodded calmly and invited him in so he could tell her everything that was on his mind. Before starting the conversation, the guy asked to talk alone so that no one would disturb him and the conversation would be more personal. He glanced towards the countess's daughter, and the girl, noticing this, felt a slight fear, as if she had a presentiment that something important and difficult was about to happen. The girl approached him and quietly asked him not to do this, hoping to stop the upcoming events that could harm her or lead to trouble. She asked if it would be possible to allow Selena to be present, as well as she wanted to be there, and hear everything that was happening despite the guy's request. The girl reminded him that Selena was his younger sister, and in her opinion, she should also take part in the conversation because the family should be together. The prince responded sharply that he had only one sister and that it was impudence on her part. However, the girl noticed that now that sister was gone, and that meant that only she remained. The empress, hearing this, was greatly amazed by the girl's words. She did not expect such directness and courage in her statements. The prince ordered Selena to stop talking immediately and removed her hand, trying to show that such statements were unacceptable. He explained that his mother simply felt sorry for her and that everything that was happening was a misunderstanding and that she had misunderstood everything. The guy emphasized that Selena is the daughter of a countess, and the palace, as well as all its wealth, will never belong to her. He called her dreams, empty fantasies that would never become reality and could never come true. The girl immediately turned to the empress in response, calling her aunt in order to gain support and show that she was not alone in her words. The empress looked at the girl with restraint, making it clear that despite her love for her, such behavior had already crossed all boundaries. Her patience was coming to an end. Without losing her cool, she ordered Natalie to take Selena to the countess. Her niece's further presence here was unacceptable. The girl couldn't believe that her own aunt had behaved so coldly. She was taken aback by the unexpectedness and felt how everything inside her had turned upside down. The empress warned her that if she heard even a word from her about the child again, she would not forgive her under any circumstances. The consequences will be irreversible. The empress will not tolerate attempts at pressure or blackmail, especially on such a sensitive topic. Despite the threat, the girl continued to scream and protest for a long time until she was finally taken away, against her will but without the use of force. At that moment, the young man asked his mother how she was feeling. He was worried about her fatigue and inner tension. The empress sat down, exhaled tiredly, and admitted that she wanted to talk to him frankly, without excuses and formalities. What had really happened? Everything seemed confusing and disturbing. What was she going to tell him? His mother had always been able to hold on. Neither storms nor winds could bend her. She might waver, but she never broke completely. Even when the former emperor rejected her, and the concubine Liliana appeared in the palace, she remained steadfast and proud. The empress fought to the end for her truth and position. Her strength of spirit did not depend on the opinions of others. So he knew there was nothing to be afraid of. Mother would always find a way out. She would survive this, as she had survived many things before. But now he couldn't keep silent. A few days ago, he found a child near Liliana's residence, and he had to tell about it. The girl's clothes were tattered. Her skin was covered with abrasions and old scars. Her entire body spoke of the torment she had endured. She looked exhausted and weak. Now the servants and doctors tried to take care of her, but the situation remained alarming. The maid thought it was simply impossible. But then he calmly informed her that the girl was none other than Liliana's daughter, Luana Belcom, something no one had known before. The empress was shocked to the depths of her soul. She could not believe what she heard, and immediately asked if there was any confirmed news from the palace on this matter. The prince admitted that he had not been to the palace for several days, and accordingly was not aware of the events that might have taken place there during this time. Meanwhile, unpleasant rumors began to spread that Liliana had treated the child extremely cruelly, causing alarm among those who heard it. The empress reproachfully noted that he should have told her about these rumors immediately, without delaying or hiding anything important. He immediately asked for forgiveness for his silence, and the Empress meanwhile turned to the maid and asked whether she had known about this before. The maid answered calmly that she knew nothing about it and that it was indeed so. Her voice sounded calm and confident without hesitation. Everything that was happening resembled a collection of old fairy tales, and it seemed that today everyone had accumulated too many childhood stories. The Empress decided that she first needed to see the girl in person, to see everything with her own eyes. Ludin said that the girl was safe and in his palace. Hearing this, the Empress ordered to go there immediately, although deep down she was sure that this girl could not be her daughter, not the child she had once given birth to. But despite this, she still needed to look at her. Her heart demanded this meeting, even if only for one look. Luana was born to the emperor's concubine, and was one of twins born on the same night. Her existence was kept secret for a long time, hiding the girl from the court. When the empress first saw Luana, her heart suddenly sank, as if an icy wind had rushed through her chest. At that moment, it seemed to her that it had stopped for a moment. Before her stood a girl whose face was strikingly similar to the child who had long since passed away. Her features, her eyes, her smile. Everything was painfully reminiscent of the one she had lost. As soon as Luana opened her eyes and smiled carefree, something inside the Empress trembled. The girl remained in her heart from the first minute forever. However, it all began much earlier, with the same girl who became the cause of the previous grief. Her appearance turned the lives of many at court upside down. The Empress was afraid that the courtiers would start whispering, spreading rumors about Luana's resemblance to the deceased heiress. This could cause a storm of mistrust. She deliberately kept the girl at a distance, not wanting to start a wave of rumors, but more and more often, she caught herself wanting to see that smile again. The maid who had known the Empress for a long time began to suspect that something was wrong with her. There were changes in her mistress's behavior. She became absent-minded and thoughtful. The lady asked her carefully how she was feeling with a slight note of alarm in her voice, as if expecting to hear something bad. Maria smiled softly, assuring that there was nothing to worry about. Luana had eaten some sweets and was now resting peacefully. Luana loved sweets, and upon hearing this, the Empress ordered that more different delicacies be brought to her next time. Loudon said with a slight grin that the girl simply adored sweets. Everything that was put in her mouth caused delight. Then he suddenly asked why the lady always looked so tense when they met. Sometimes he begins to be tormented by doubts. Does the baby receive enough attention and care? Maybe they don't notice something, miss something, don't really understand her? The girl was silent. And in this silence, the prince could not grasp what was in his mother's soul. He did not understand her glances. He could not guess what she was thinking about looking at the child. The Empress suddenly froze in thought. Should she meet this girl herself? And in general, would she be able to do this without destroying something inside herself? Without waiting for her decision, the son quickly intervened. He was the first to step towards the door and opened it wide as if to say, "There is no time to waste." A passage inside appeared right in front of his mother. She clearly had not expected such an outburst, but the young man, without stopping, casually remarked that standing in indecision in front of the door was not the best idea. He calmly but insistently asked the lady not to hesitate and just come in, not to delay, not to be afraid, not to think too long. Everything had already been decided for her. At this time, Maria came closer and said softly that the princess was currently fast asleep. The room was silent, only her breathing filled the space. The girl lay peacefully in her crib, snuggled up to the teddy bear that Adam had given her. He had become more than just a toy for her, almost a friend. The prince smiled and remarked that she was a bit like a piglet, because all she did was eat, sleep, and eat again, and so on in a circle, endlessly childishly touching. Maria confidently stated that children of Luana's age need to eat more, because it is at this age that the body requires nutrition for growth. This also applied to the princess herself. To tell the truth, he himself ate no less as a child, because it is difficult for a growing body to cope without a sufficient amount of food, especially when a lot of energy is spent. The Empress suddenly asked how old the princess was, and the maid, a little embarrassed, replied that the girl was only 8. Hearing this, the Empress was amazed. It seemed impossible to her that the girl was already 8 because she had recently had a birthday, but she looked much younger. Luana was so fragile, tiny, and thin that even compared to other children her age, she seemed miniature and vulnerable. The Empress should not only allocate money for the maintenance of her daughter Liliana, but also visit them herself, because they are still a family. Suddenly, her gaze fell on the girl. It seemed that she turned towards her, as if she had woken up, and this made the Empress tense up. However, the princess simply changed her position in her sleep, and the lady breathed a sigh of relief, allowing herself a slight smile. The Crown Prince calmly remarked that they should probably all go to the office now to discuss further matters. The Empress knew that the girl would soon wake up, and this made her smile softly. She nodded to herself, as if agreeing with some unspoken decision. Before leaving, she again lingered her gaze on the girl sleeping especially peacefully, and thought how touching and peaceful she looked at that moment. A report on the state of the palace where the princess lived lay neatly on the table nearby. It was printed and bound as befits important papers. The amount indicated in the budget column was quite impressive. A lot of money was indeed allocated for the maintenance of the palace, which raised even more questions. The Empress could not understand why the palace was in such disrepair, since on paper everything should be different. She was stunned by this disorder. The butler, with difficulty choosing his words, apologized. He said that he could not convey all his remorse, and that he himself did not expect such a reaction from his mother. The Empress firmly stated that she was taking responsibility for herself. Since she had allowed this to happen, she would be in charge of everything concerning the princess's budget. It was also decided to review the powers of all concubines who had previously been given power. Now everything had to be under strict control. The prince noted that the girl would hardly be pleased to know about all this. There was concern in his voice. Wouldn't it be better to just leave her out of it? The Empress didn't want to listen to anything. Even if she was rightfully hers, she didn't care what the concubine thought. It was more important to maintain order now. The princess must be warned if the concubine decides to come to her. The Empress ordered that everything be reported to her immediately and personally. And if she has something to say, let her say it directly. The Empress wanted to figure out what was happening herself without entrusting it to others. The prince noted to himself that he had expected Luana to be uncompromising towards Liliana. It seemed unacceptable to him to show compassion to a woman who had caused so much pain to an innocent child. He also thought that Luana was too bold and reckless. But at that moment, an unexpected noise was heard that instantly distracted him from thinking about her actions and character. The sound was painfully familiar. It was light and high, like a child's voice. The prince immediately tensed up. Something was wrong because children should not be in this part of the castle. Opening the door, he saw Adam standing next to a little girl. She looked confused, and Adam himself was serious, as if the situation required immediate intervention. The girl said she was hungry. The prince was surprised and began to ask, "Where is Maria, and how did the girl end up here at such an hour and without an escort?" Luana explained that she woke up hungry. She started looking for Maria, but couldn't find her. Then the girl decided to go looking for food herself, not knowing where to turn. The prince chuckled, noting to himself that the girl really was not averse to eating at any time. He carefully picked her up, intending to carry her to where she could be helped. On the way, he wondered if his mother would like to join them for dinner right now. After all, the occasion was rather unusual. The girl was frightened when she heard him calling her mother, and immediately thought that he was talking about the Empress. This title inspired her with respect and anxiety at the same time. After all, the prince's mother was the very woman the girl had long dreamed of meeting, even though she was afraid of this moment. This meeting seemed important and fateful to her. Soon the prince asked if the Empress wanted anything special for dinner, trying to show respect and concern for his mother and those around her. But the lady said that it did not matter to her, and then the girl saw the Empress for the first time. She wondered why she was here in such a situation. The girl understood one thing. The Empress would never hurt her, but it would be difficult to expect love from her either. In her eyes, the Empress always remained cold. How the Empress could show warm feelings towards someone like her, Luana simply could not understand. It seemed impossible and strange to her. Perhaps the Empress was upset because the girl was near her son, and this caused her internal tension and discontent. Luana wanted to ask the Empress for help, but she was afraid that she would be hated, so she decided to remain silent for now and ask only that the prince allow her to remain on Earth. The prince was interested in how long the girl had been behaving like this with strangers and was surprised why she had resisted so much when he had brought her in here. He still remembered the state she was in when they first met. The Empress had remarked that perhaps she was uncomfortable here because of it, and it was obvious to everyone around her. The girl could not deny this fact, but the prince, on the contrary, assured that the situation was completely different, and there was no reason to worry. He wanted everyone to feel calm and confident in this place. The food was really good here, and Maria the head maid seemed like a very nice and cheerful person who helped everyone cope with difficulties and kept the mood good. However, the girl felt a little awkward with the Empress, as she inspired fear in her. Despite this, she tried to behave with dignity and not show her worries. The prince asked her to take a seat at the table and not to worry, because today was a special dinner, and everything had to go calmly and without tension. He noticed that the girl couldn't even cut meat on her own, and this made him reluctant to leave her without help at such a moment. The Empress was genuinely shocked when she saw this, and the maid, observing the situation, noted that it was really difficult for her to cope with it. Loudon himself took it upon himself to cut the meat for her, showing care and tenderness. He told her to stop worrying and looking at him, because he was almost done. Never before had she thought that her son could show such kindness and care, and this moment made her look at him differently, with more respect and warmth. The girl was very happy. She sincerely thanked him for his help. The maid noted that she did not remember her son usually being so friendly to strangers. The Empress smiled and remarked that she seemed to know her child quite well. She even added that he had recently put Luana to bed himself, which was quite unexpected. These words were spoken by Adam, and the Empress smiled and admitted that she could hardly believe such behavior from her son because it was not at all like him. He treats Anya differently, shows concern for her, but he has always been indifferent to Selena, which noticeably distinguished his behavior in the family. He constantly drove Louis away and didn't even want to communicate with him, which seemed very strange and uncharacteristic for her son, causing surprise in everyone. Then they asked Luana if she was grateful to him for his help, and the girl, without hesitation, immediately expressed her gratitude, showing sincere feelings. The Empress's maid noted that she was surprised by such changes in her son's behavior, and the Empress suggested that all this could have happened precisely thanks to the princess. Also, if you look closely at the girl, you can see that she is not at all like Liliana, although some details remind of her, but there are also significant differences. The Empress added that if her child had lived, she would certainly have looked exactly like this girl, with the same features and character. The prince noticed that his mother was lost in thought and turned to her. However, the lady replied that nothing special was happening and suggested that they continue their meal without further ado. The Empress's mind was filled with thoughts of her dead child. She knew something was wrong with the girl and decided to check what to do next. The girl was very sweet, but the Empress realized that she was not her real daughter, and this feeling did not leave her for a minute. Moreover, the girl looked very much like the Empress and also resembled her son, which was even more confusing. After some time, dessert was brought for the girl, which was specially served a little later so as not to disrupt the order of the meal. The girl offered the prince to eat her dessert, but he did not understand the reason for such an action and was surprised by her gesture. Then the Empress turned to the girl, offering her to try her own dessert, but the girl immediately refused to eat. She looked at the prince and explained that she really didn't want to eat his dessert, trying to sound decisive. However, it was clear from her look that she still really wanted to try this dessert, although she did not show it openly. The prince noticed that the girl could not resist delicious food at all, and watched her behavior with interest. The Empress agreed with his observations and immediately asked if the prince himself was hungry, hinting at her concern for her son. The Empress noticed that the prince acted as if he was hungry, but at the same time, he did not know how to eat like a sweet little girl. He did everything wrong and did not pay attention to her advice. The girl carefully took the spoon with dessert and handed it to the prince, as if offering him to try something special, but she did it very tenderly and timidly, showing care and attention. The prince was amazed by this act. The girl explained that she was the only one who really loved this delicious food and advised him to try it too. although with some caution. The empress warned that Ludon needed to be more careful and cautious in his words, so as not to offend anyone or appear rude in his communication with others. Luana was sincerely worried and hoped that Ludon did not treat her as cruelly and rudely as he sometimes did with others, because his attitude was important to her. Adam, the chief assistant, reported that Luna was being closely watched by Maria, the chief maid, to ensure that she was safe and no one disturbed the girl. The empress assured that there was no reason to worry and expressed her desire to take the girl to her place, confident that Luana would love her new friend Emma and feel comfortable there. Having heard that the empress wanted to take her away, the girl was confused and did not immediately understand why they were talking about her and her future in this way. She could not understand why the empress was talking like that and why they wanted to transport her, since she herself had not yet decided what she wanted and what she expected from this change. Then the empress asked the girl what she thought about moving and whether she wanted to leave there and live with her, suggesting that Luana herself make the choice. The girl was very surprised when the empress told her that she would now be able to try many delicious and unusual dishes that she could not afford before. The crown prince noticed that the girl was trying to calm the empress, but she herself did not understand how to act correctly and what to answer to her words. Deep down, the girl did not understand why she did not want to stay where she was expected, preferring to be next to the empress, although this seemed strange even to her. She felt that staying in the prince's palace was better than facing a difficult meeting with her real mother, who caused her anxiety and doubts. However, the girl resolutely stated that she wanted to stay in the palace of the crown prince, not wanting to go back despite all the circumstances. The empress was amazed by the girl's unexpected decision, and the prince, hearing this, was also very surprised, and for a long time could not believe her words. At first, the girl's presence among them seemed accidental and insignificant. No one thought that it would change anything in their lives or become important for her. Over time, the girl got used to the new home, to the prince, to Maria, and to the environment, which now became something familiar and calm for her. The main thing for her was that HRH, the crown prince, Maria, and Adam, all these people were there and supported her, creating a sense of family. The empress, of course, could not help but notice how everything was turning out, and said that, although she was sorry, she understood and respected her choice to stay here. She admitted that if this was the girl's sincere desire, she would not interfere with her decision and would allow her to stay in this place where she was accepted and loved. Maria, the head maid, suddenly ran into the room and immediately began loudly calling for His Highness and the Empress, indicating that something important and urgent had happened. The lady immediately felt alarmed when Maria reported that this was indeed a serious matter that required immediate attention. The girl immediately wondered if the incident was connected with her mother, because the latest news had been haunting and alarming. The prince remarked that if Mary had anything important to tell, they would do well to go into another room to discuss the situation calmly. He took the princess by the hand, intending to lead her out, but she insisted that she wanted to stay and listen if it concerned her mother. The prince objected that this was an adult conversation, and children had no place near such conversations so as not to disturb them unnecessarily. Taking the girl in his arms, he added that if we were talking about Liliana, he too should be aware of what was happening. The girl frowned and asked if he was really sure that he was ready to hear the truth and would not be afraid of it. The prince confidently declared that he was absolutely sure of his words, and then he and Adam left the room, taking the girl with them. Their steps were calm but determined. The empress, noticing their departure, asked Maria what exactly was happening at that moment and why there was such a stir in the palace. Maria explained that the servants in the princess's palace were actively looking for Luana, as if something urgent had happened, and this was causing concern. She clarified that she did not know whether Liliana had given such an order, but she had definitely seen several maids thoroughly searching the area around the palace. The empress, hearing this, said with annoyance that she personally had no time for such trifles, and that palace affairs should be resolved differently and not act arbitrarily behind her back. Because of all this commotion, she will have to postpone the meeting with Liliana, as she is currently busy with other more important matters. Then the empress noticed that she wanted to ask something else, and asked what kind of sweets Luana preferred in order to please the girl. The girl, turning to Maria, asked whether all this commotion was caused by order of the empress herself, or for some other reason. Maria assumed that the girl loved sweets very much, because that was the reason why so much attention was directed and many treats were prepared. She admitted that she didn't even expect the Empress to send so many different sweets and gifts at one time. The girl wondered whether it was even possible to accept such a huge gift, because it seemed unexpectedly large and generous to her. She decided to ask Maria what exactly was included in this big gift, so that she could understand whether it was worth accepting. Maria explained that there were candies there that, in her opinion, the girl had never tried before, and that she should like. Luana was surprised when Maria told her about the dessert, the most delicate one, which literally melts in the mouth like a cloud of sweet taste, and it promised to be something very special for the girl. The girl had never tried candy before, and they thought they looked very appetizing and unusual. She imagined that the sweets would simply dissolve in her mouth like magic. According to Maria, these candies were supposed to be very tasty, and she remembered how she herself had once enjoyed them. But for Luana, it was still just a dream because she had not yet tried them. When Luana finally tried the dessert, the taste was pleasant, but still a little different from how Maria described it. Not quite as sweet and delicate as she expected. Maria took another candy and insisted that the girl try this one, assuring her that she would definitely like it, and that she would feel the real taste of this unusual delicacy. Luana was amazed when she tried the candy. The taste was sweet and sour, unusual, and it caused her a whole range of new sensations that she had not known before. It seemed that now she understood what Maria meant when she spoke about candies that spread in the mouth, just like that, with a complex but very interesting taste that cannot be immediately explained in words. The girl had never tried sweets with such an unusual taste before, which seemed very pleasant to her. Maria noticed that the princess clearly wanted to try them again. She liked the delicacy so much. The princess admitted that she really liked these sweets. Maria also noticed that the jar they were in was made of transparent and thin crystal, which immediately gave them special value. The girl was genuinely surprised, and even a little shocked. After all, crystal is considered a very expensive and rare material, and here it turned out to be part of a simple candy jar, which seemed incredible. This crystal is valued not only for its beauty and preciousness, but also because it contains a large amount of magical energy, mana, which makes it even more special and rare. To the girl, it seemed too expensive and valuable to just use it to store sweets. She could not believe that such a jar was actually made of real crystal. Maria explained that everything the Empress offered was always of great value, and the gifts they had received were certainly no exception, as the Empress was very generous and caring. The girl did not expect such an attitude and gifts at all. She did not understand why the Empress sent her so many gifts. It seemed unusual and mysterious to her at the same time. She still couldn't shake off the anxious thoughts that something might go wrong. Perhaps it was because she had never experienced such genuine kindness and attention to herself before. The girl felt uncomfortable with these thoughts. It seemed to her that she might have done something wrong, and she was afraid that everything good that was happening now might suddenly end without explanation. As expected, Luana really liked the sweets that were offered to her. It was exactly what could please the Empress, because she always took care of the girl's joys. The girl was shocked to hear that the Empress would be happy because of her reaction. She thought that she had done nothing special to deserve such praise and attention. In her heart, the girl was struggling with herself, not believing that the sincerity of their intentions really existed. She felt hatred towards herself for this, and thought that she could not give anything in return because she had nothing. The maid tried to convince her that children her age should not repay kindness, and even more so, were not obliged to return anything in response to gifts and attention. However, if the girl still insists, then she can thank the Empress with words, because sincere words of gratitude will be a sufficient answer. The girl asked Maria again if this would really be enough, and the maid replied that if Luana called the Empress Mama, that would especially please her. The girl was surprised and thought it might be a joke, but if she thought about it seriously, maybe she could really do that. Maria was frightened when she heard such words from the girl, because the princess had already received so much care and gifts, and such a proposal sounded unexpected even to her. She is truly very lucky with the Empress and the Crown Prince. They show her extraordinary care and attention, treat her with warmth and respect, as if she were their own family. Maria noted that this good relationship is not just words but reality. His Highness the Crown Prince has a soft and kind heart, which is evident in all his actions and treatment of her. In truth, she was amazed that he turned out to be such an angel. In her heart, she thought that one day his huge and generous heart might experience great pain from disappointments. Maria was immediately interested when she heard the girl call the Crown Prince an angel. She became curious about what exactly she meant by that term and why she rated him so highly. The girl truly believed that His Highness was a kind and trustworthy man, and that was probably why she was so confident in his purity and nobility. In fact, it would have been quite normal for her if the Empress and the Prince had treated her with hostility, since she was not from their circle and could have caused them displeasure. Maria was shocked by such words and immediately hurried to the lady to stop such thoughts and explain that it was impossible to say such things. She firmly stated that no one would be able to remain indifferent to the girl's beauty, and that everyone around would be delighted with her charm and appearance. The girl only smiled back and noted that Maria had too big and kind a heart. Maria realized that people who saw the girl would also not be able to resist her magnetism. The girl admitted that she only has the title of princess, but there is no real power or influence behind it. This title is just a formality without any real content or weight. Maria, being the only daughter of a count, knew about her popularity. She heard that admirers and people who wanted to attract her attention often gathered in front of her. The girl noticed that Maria was very popular and she had to take care of someone like her. This could be a burden for Maria, because taking care of a child is a big responsibility. Maria was amazed that the girl really thought so. She hastened to explain that for her caring for her mistress was not a burden at all, but a joy and an honor. Maria was happy to look after Luana, and believed that the girl should stop doubting and look at her with pride straightening her shoulders. Maria confidently stated that Mrs. Luana was the second most important person in the empire, with enormous status and influence. The girl doubted this and thought it was impossible. She thought that Maria had forgotten who her mother was, and that was why she was saying this. Maria replied that it didn't matter. Their family was not part of the imperial dynasty, and her last name was Darsha, which separated them from power. Neither the Empress, who holds all supreme power, nor the Crown Prince, who is destined to ascend the throne one day, can compare with the special significance of what is happening now. No aristocrat would consider it an honor to make the daughter of a baron the wife of an empress or a special lady-in-waiting, since such decisions have great political and social importance. The only woman truly worthy of the title, and connected to the highest imperial lineage, remained Empress Arya Belkum, who possessed power and respect on par with the crown. But not only Arya was important and significant, but also the girl Luana, whose fate was also closely intertwined with the imperial family and the future of the state. The girl listened attentively to the words of Maria, the headmaid, and a satisfied smile appeared on her face, because what she heard inspired hope and confidence. Maria reassured the girl, saying that there was no reason to be sad, and this caused her to laugh lightly and feel joyful, which could dispel all worries. If the concern was about gifts, Maria assured that she was already preparing a plan to fix the situation and do something special and pleasant for everyone. After a short pause, Maria suggested that they could make a small but very symbolic gift as a token of gratitude for the Empress herself, which aroused the girl's interest. The girl was surprised when she learned about the gift, and Maria explained that they would prepare some cookies for the Empress as a simple but sincere sign of attention and care. The cookie dough was already prepared in advance. All that was left was to knead it and bake it carefully so that the gift would turn out not only tasty, but also beautiful. Cookies have always been considered a very tasty treat that can lift the mood and give cozy moments of joy to everyone who tries them. The girl was amazed and thoughtful, remembering the taste of freshly baked cookies that she had recently tried, and which she remembered for their tenderness and aroma. She noticed that Her Highness usually did not like such sweets, and this caused her some surprise, because the cookies seemed very appetizing and pleasant to the taste. Maria suggested that the Highness might change his mind if Luana gave him these cookies, and then he would definitely like them and eat them with pleasure. The recipe will be supplemented with chocolate chips, which Luana loves, and the cookies will be so delicious that anyone who tries them will definitely want another piece. Luana decided that this was a really great way to express gratitude, because making something with your own hands is the best gift that can be given from the heart. She had never tried making cookies before, and the thought worried her a little, but the desire to do something enjoyable prevailed over her doubts. She understood that something could go wrong, but she didn't even want to think about it, because her belief in success was stronger than her fear of possible failure. Luana was confident that she would succeed because she cooked with a sincere desire to say thank you and show her appreciation to His Highness. But it was at this moment that she began to have a concern. Why did the cookies look so strange and not like what she expected to receive? Looking at Maria, Luana noticed that her cookies turned out much better, neater, and more appetizing, which only increased her doubts. Although her cookies were made in the same shape and with the same dough, the differences were obvious, and she couldn't figure out why their products looked so different. The girl told Maria that she had also cooked something special at home and was sure that it would be delicious. She was surprised why Maria just wanted to throw away the treat, because it was made with love. Maria could not understand such an attitude, because in her opinion, the food looked very appetizing. She was sure that the Empress would definitely like this gift, despite the girl's doubts. Maria was convinced that the efforts of the princess, who tried to prepare the treat herself, would not go unnoticed. The Empress would definitely remember this, because she appreciates such efforts. The cookies Loudon had loved since childhood were not perfect either, but they still brought joy. Maria remembered these moments with warmth, knowing that taste was not always the most important thing. The girl said that she did even worse than Loudon and was a little upset, but Maria supported her, assuring her that there was no need to worry. The main thing is desire, and she is always ready to help bring the matter to the end. Maria noted that the princess would definitely please the Empress, and this helped the girl think. She realized that Maria was worried about the reaction and was trying to cheer her up, although she herself did not believe that anyone would like the cookies. The girl almost forgot that she needed to treat one more person. She was embarrassed by the thought that the gift was beautiful, but for this, she needed to gather up her courage and stop being afraid of the reaction. She approached Adam, and he was slightly shocked. The princess was handing him something made with her own hands. Adam was sincerely grateful and surprised, because the cookies were made in the shape of cute raccoons and looked very appetizing. The girl smiled and clarified that the cookies were actually shaped like bears, not raccoons, adding a little lightness and joy to the moment. Adam noticed that the bears really turned out very beautiful, although he was a little scared, but he was able to cope with the situation and did not get confused. He admitted that he was very happy because everything was done by the girl with her own hands, and now he is sincerely happy with such a gift. The girl smiled. Because Adam hadn't said anything bad, Maria offered him to try the cookies, assuring him that they were made with great love. Maria then joked that she had cookies in the shape of a tiger and a dog, but immediately added that it was just a joke to lighten the mood. In fact, the cookies that the girl baked turned out to be completely unsuccessful, but she was the only one who thought so and did not notice this flaw. At that moment, the crown prince approached them and looked with interest at what they were doing and what had attracted their attention. Adam asked the prince to take a look at the cookies Luana had made and share his opinion of the girl's creation. He thought the cookies looked very cute, although the prince was a little surprised and did not immediately understand their delight. The crown prince asked again if Adam really called it cute, expressing slight confusion about the cookies. The prince asked what this strange thing was, but Maria immediately objected, asking why he thought so, because the cookies were very tasty. Adam invited the gentleman to come closer. Noting that the cookies looked perfect, he was sure that even his sister would like them when she saw and tasted them. He believed that no one could cook something that suited his taste because he had very specific requirements and high standards. The prince did not pay attention to Adam's opinion because Luna was not a good cook, and the girl thought that the prince did not like her sweets. However, the situation was not so bad because Maria made something about these cookies look familiar and bring back pleasant memories. She suggested that this recipe was similar to what the prince made as a child, only with slight differences and a special touch. Hearing this, the prince was very surprised, and the girl was amazed that he had the same culinary skills as she did, although she did not expect it. Maria added that the gentleman probably remembers the times when they baked cookies together when he was very little and still studying. She first assumed that their similar cooking skills were due to the fact that they were brother and sister who truly had golden hands. After these words, Maria smiled, and then she asked the gentleman to tell her again how cute their cookies turned out. The prince looked at them carefully again and decided that they looked quite acceptable. He even suggested that the girl might have real talent if this continued in the same spirit. Maria received the answer she had been waiting for from His Highness the Crown Prince, with surprise and joy. It was like a sign of approval for her, which gave her confidence. However, the prince immediately added that the result was not very successful and she could have done better. This cooled her enthusiasm a little, but did not break her desire to work. The girl turned to Maria and, smiling, said that they had completed the task. There was a slight confidence in her voice, as if this was their shared small victory. Maria smiled back and noted that the girl had certainly done a great job, but it looked like she had never baked cookies before. That explained some of the flaws. The girl said something incomprehensible, and Maria decided not to attach any importance to it. The main thing is that it is not only skills and experience that are important, but diligence and sincerity. Both of them had culinary skills, which brought her thoughts back to the past. The prince understood why Maria felt something in common between herself and the girl. The girl promised that she would try even harder and would certainly succeed. She was sure that she could cook better than her brothers. Hearing this, a guy who was passing by looked at them with interest. The girl accidentally called him brother, and he repeated it, surprised. She immediately realized her mistake. She had called him brother, although she had not intended to. She had absolutely no idea what to do now in this difficult situation, and remained confused, trying to comprehend what had been said. She was probably trying to hold on, and so she should apologize for her behavior. She was acting a little awkwardly, but the words seemed to be stuck in her throat, not coming out. Because she couldn't say anything, the girl suddenly burst into tears. The tears flowed non-stop, and it was the only way to express her feelings at that moment. Then the prince took her in his arms and calmly said that everything was fine, noting that she was a good girl for calling him her brother, and this touched the girl very much. She was shocked that he perceived her as a sister. It seemed too close and unusual to her, and she could not immediately believe such warm words. Instead of getting angry or smiling, she cried even harder because she felt like she could truly call him her brother. These people truly loved her deeply, and it was felt in their every movement and word, which made the situation even more touching. Now she was very tired and dreamed only of sleep, so she quickly fell asleep, resting in the arms of the prince, who held her very tenderly. Everyone was very kind to her when she fell asleep. Press carried her gently to her room and laid her on the bed so she could rest peacefully. Maria noticed that Luana was very nervous and had been trying to make cookies since the morning. Because of this, she quickly got tired and looked very tired and tense. Then Maria noted that the princess, despite her worries, turned out to be very sweet, and soon fell asleep, as if calming down and forgetting about everything around her. Maria pointed out that the prince should look at the princess. The girl was fast asleep, holding His Highness's hand, which looked very touching and unusual. Loudon said that Maria should not worry anymore. She could leave calmly because the princess would be fine, and she was under reliable protection. Maria understood his words and left, and the prince remained in the room with the princess, watching her closely and not hiding his concern. He had felt something strange ever since he first met Luana, a feeling that had been bothering him and making him think. He understood that she was Liliana's daughter, but in his soul he felt something else that could not be explained by simple words or logic. Deep down, he began to perceive her as a younger sister who needed to be treated with special care and tenderness. The girl turned to her brother, and he replied that she would remain there safe and under his watchful eye, so that nothing would threaten her again until she fell asleep. Now he smiles, especially often, when he sees the girl. Her presence seems to fill his day with warmth, and this bright feeling is reflected in his gaze and smile, which become softer and more sincere. This is an unexpected change for him. When the girl grows up, there is a high probability that she will follow in her mother's footsteps, continuing her business. Destiny seems predetermined because she absorbs the surrounding atmosphere and the example of loved ones, which forms her character and choice in the future. The girl once asked him in a dream if he would stay with her, despite the fact that she was Liliana's daughter. This question contained a childish uncertainty and hope that the people important to her would not leave her despite the circumstances and status. He decided to stay with her because the answer was simple. Yes, he would be there. This decision was deliberate and sincere because he felt that this connection was important not only for the girl, but also for himself, strengthening their special closeness. It is hard to keep his distance because this girl has become part of his family. Feelings and responsibilities are intertwined, making it impossible to remain indifferent, and he increasingly realizes that their destinies are now intertwined forever. The girl noticed that he lay down next to her, and this caused her great fear. Such behavior was unexpected and incomprehensible to her, because she was not used to such closeness, especially with the Highness who usually kept his distance. She didn't understand at all why His Highness was sleeping in her room right now. This confused her and made her look for an explanation for what was happening, because this was the first time something like this had happened, and her childish consciousness was trying to find logic in the situation. The girl needed to think it over. She remembered eating cookies yesterday, and after that, most likely she fell asleep right away. This moment seemed important to her because it connected with her current experiences and feelings that filled her little heart. By the way, she noticed a strange detail. The Highness had the same hair color as hers. It seemed like an unusual coincidence, which added even more mystery to their relationship and emphasized their unexpected connection, as if fate itself had connected them. Then she suddenly noticed that he had also opened his eyes and was looking at her attentively. His gaze was tired, but somehow special, as if he wanted to say something without words. She quickly jumped away from him, frightened by the surprise, and thought to herself when he had managed to wake up, because it seemed that he had slept long and deeply. He noticed her surprise and couldn't help but smile, because he was interested in why she reacted like that every time, as if she was seeing him for the first time, and what was hidden in it. Maria once explained that it was all because the Highness seemed intimidating, and she had already spoken about this before when she talked about her first impressions. The prince was surprised that Maria was there and thought that she had begun to behave too boldly lately, as if she had ceased to be afraid of rules and prohibitions. He asked himself if he looked like a monster, because he didn't understand why the girl was crying, and said that his hand was numb because she had been holding it all night, and now she was thanking him like this. The girl explained that she was one of their circle because she slept next to him, and that was why she was so surprised when he suddenly woke up and looked at her so attentively. He said that he knew everything, and if she really wanted to see his face, which he considered forbidden, then she should just say it directly without fear of consequences. The prince noticed that after waking up, she immediately tried to figure out how not to stare at him, as if afraid of accidentally revealing her feelings or thoughts. He asked her if she thought they were alike, and at that moment, Maria suddenly intervened in the conversation, adding something important that immediately changed his perception of the situation and made him think differently. Then he realized what exactly he wanted to tell her, and it clarified many of his thoughts, showing that his words had a much deeper meaning than they had seemed at first. The whole reason was that any reminder of Liliana could upset her, and he understood how important it was not to cause her unnecessary pain. That's why he asked her to forget about what he had just said, so as not to upset her or force unnecessary memories or comparisons. The girl refused to admit that she looked like the crown prince, despite his words showing her independence and her understanding of herself. In response, she noticed that he was also pretending to be asleep, and at the same time, he was watching her with mockery, which surprised and intrigued the guy a little. The crown prince was stunned by her words and asked again, because he did not expect this, and the girl admitted that she did not even suspect that he slept next to her. This caused him to sigh a little and say that he now realized how much she really was like him, which left her with mixed feelings. The girl was not prepared for his sudden outburst of anger, but he simply stepped aside and asked where his things were, showing that he was more interested in that now. She didn't understand what exactly he was looking for and said that this was her room, so she doubted that there could be anything here that belonged to him. At that moment, Maria noticed that he seemed to be simply looking for his cookies, and this added some lightness and humor to the tense situation. The girl was surprised when she heard that she didn't have to cook anymore. She thought that his attitude towards her was filled with hostility, as if he hated her. This feeling hurt her deeply because she always tried. First, the princess baked cookies for His Majesty and Adam. It was her first step, and she hoped that next time she would be able to please the prince himself. Her desire to please was sincere and warm. She was sorry that he couldn't try her treat, because she prepared it with love and attention. If the prince wanted to eat something now, she knew that Maria, who was always nearby and helping, would do it. Maria assured that she would do everything that was necessary and considered it her duty. She always supported the girl and was ready to help in any matter to make her tasks easier and make the palace days better. His presence disappeared, and the girl thought that he might be displeased. However, Maria suggested that it would be better to practice baking cookies to make them even tastier and gain recognition. The girl decided that she would make even more cookies because it could not only please him, but also strengthen her relationship with him. She understood that a treat with care is always appreciated and can change a lot. When she first arrived in this place, her main goal was to survive. Everything around her seemed difficult and alien, but she fought hard to find her place in the new circumstances. Now, she couldn't imagine life without the palace where everyone was trying for her, and she wanted to be a part of this world. This sense of belonging filled her with new meaning and motivation. She decided to put in more effort to prove to His Highness and everyone around her that she was truly useful and worthy of their attention and trust. This challenge became an important goal for her. The man came to the Empress and told her important news. His voice was serious, and there was some anxiety in his words. He watched the reaction carefully, realizing how serious everything was. The Empress replied that she thought it necessary to know why he was there. She addressed him with respect, calling him Count Chart, showing that she was interested in the reason for his visit and that she was ready to listen. The man explained that he was truly sorry because his wife and daughter wanted to personally apologize to the Empress, but they were unable to get into the imperial palace despite all their attempts and efforts. The problem arose because the invitation was not sent on time, or there was some confusion with its delivery, due to which the wife and daughter were unable to get to the desired event and explain the situation. Selena tried very hard to live up to her mother and society's expectations, but this whole conflict hurt her deeply. She cried almost the entire night, and it hurt everyone to see such a strong girl so vulnerable. The man added that if the Empress forgives Selena this time, she promises that such a situation will not happen again and will not cause trouble to anyone anymore, because the family is very sorry about what happened. The Empress agreed, noting that Selena was still a child and that she had perhaps been too strict with her. She suggested that they have a conversation together to explain her thoughts and feelings to the girl more gently. The girl was delighted when she saw the Empress, her mother, and rushed to her with relief and joy, as if freed from a heavy burden that she had carried in her soul for a long time. She tried to explain that she was very sorry, and that she had always considered the Empress her own mother, that this attitude had deeply hurt her heart, and that her desire to be better was sincere. The universe sincerely regretted its words to both imperial families. It understood that it had been too stupid and thoughtless. However, it tried to explain that the girl had no bad intentions at all, and everything had already been forgotten. The Empress was lost in thought, looking at Luana, who seemed so small and frail next to Selena. The girl admitted that she was incredibly happy when her mother called her to her again. It was a moment of joy and warmth. Luana called the Empress Mommy and said with pleasure that the treats were very tasty. She felt the care and affection that she received at that moment, and it filled her heart with joy and warmth. Luana also loved sweets like many children her age. For her, these moments were special because in them she felt not only the taste, but also the attention that she sometimes lacked. But despite all this, she couldn't stop comparing herself to Selena. This feeling weighed on her, making her wonder why there was such a difference between them, even though they were both under the same roof. Things weren't supposed to go on like this. Suddenly, Selena noticed something important. She felt that something was happening that needed to be stopped and decided to take a closer look at what was happening around her. Selene realized that the Empress was interested in something, but it was not something that could be immediately understood. Something else caught her attention, perhaps something hidden behind appearance and words. The maid quietly approached the Empress and informed her that she had received a gift. She carefully handed over the basket, carefully wrapped, as if carrying something very valuable. The Empress took it carefully in her hands, not hiding her interest. Inside was a basket of cookies that Luana had sent. The gift was sent as a token of gratitude, and each piece of cookie seemed to carry a piece of warmth and care from the girl who had decided to make this gesture personally for the Empress. The Empress was truly delighted with the gift. She believed that Luana had baked the cookies herself, and that this gave the gift special value. Her eyes shone with joy and gratitude, as if she had received not just a delicacy, but a manifestation of true tenderness. The maid confirmed that the cookies were made by the princess herself. However, she did not understand why the Empress was so happy about something that seemed ordinary and even a little strange to her. She only watched with slight surprise. A broad smile appeared on the maid's face. She wondered what exactly it was about these, in her opinion, unsightly cookies that attracted the Empress so much. Her thoughts revolved around the fact that she herself would hardly have paid attention to them. The maid noticed that some of the cookies were burnt. She knew that such things were unhealthy, and this thought worried her. She thought that the princess might not have fully understood what she was doing, because it could harm her beloved Empress. Selena didn't understand what Luana was thinking when she baked these cookies. To her, it looked like an insult to both the Empress and herself. Her irritation was mixed with incomprehension, because she couldn't accept that such a gift could be perceived differently. She simply threw the cookies aside and said that it was better to get rid of this unpleasant food, so as not to waste time and nerves on it anymore. These cookies seemed to her not tasty at all and irritated her. The Empress noticed that some of the cookies had fallen to the floor, and this upset her. She was upset that someone would treat something that had been prepared for her with such care and attention so carelessly. She said she really thought Selena had matured, but now she realized she was still being rude and inappropriate, being tactless in the most important moments. Celine was confused and tried to explain that all this was done for her sake, but the Empress was adamant and stated that if she insulted her again, there would be no forgiveness. The Empress demanded that Selena be taken out of the room immediately so that there would be no more reasons for conflicts and unpleasant scenes, and so that the situation would not escalate. The universe, trying to smooth things over, reminded her that she was the mother of the Empress and began to ask for forgiveness for Selena, begging for another chance to improve their relationship. She asked very sincerely to understand her feelings and even burst into tears, showing how much she did not want to lose contact with the Empress and Selene. The universe said that it did not want to leave this family, and cried, but the Empress was adamant and did not want to listen to excuses anymore, deciding to put an end to this conflict. The Empress had no idea that most of the cookies would simply fall apart into tiny pieces as soon as they were placed on the table. She expected the treat to look perfect, but the reality was different. Selena still can't forget the very day she first saw her Aunt Empress Aria. That moment left a vivid and unforgettable mark in her memory and made her rethink a lot. She was strictly ordered to greet her aunt, told that she had to show respect and reverence when she appeared. The girl carefully prepared for this meeting so as not to make a mistake in front of a high-ranking person. The meeting turned out to be an unexpected surprise for Selena. The Empress turned out to be an amazingly beautiful and majestic woman whose appearance immediately aroused admiration and even slight fear of her status. The Empress said kindly that she was glad to see Selena and showed her friendliness, although her attitude towards ordinary nobles was usually colder. This warm attention surprised the girl. In response, Selene thought to herself that the Empress was truly a beautiful and strong woman, worthy of admiration. Inwardly, she had already begun to admire this person and dreamed of being like her. The girl felt that she always wanted to be in the spotlight and shine like Arya. It was at that moment that the Empress became a real example for her, a symbol of what one could strive for. Since then, Selene tried to appear at court every time to visit the Majesty. She looked for opportunities to be near the Empress, hoping to receive her approval and support. The Empress treated her very carefully and thoughtfully, as if she considered her own daughter. Even though Selene was just the daughter of a count, it did not matter much to Arya. Everything was going well, but now the Empress declared that if the girl insulted her again, she would never forgive it. This was a serious warning that Selene had to take into account. Everything was going well until her aunt kicked her out which she hadn't expected at all. She was shocked by this event, and at that moment, she heard someone talking nearby. She turned around and saw the ladies standing nearby. They could not understand how the Empress's niece could sit alone and cry, which seemed very strange to them. The girl warned Marquise Linnea to watch her words. Apparently, her anger was so great that the Empress decided to send her away without regret. Selina loudly declared that she shouldn't say stupid things again. She sincerely believed that she really cared about her niece, and it showed in her voice and behavior. Marketova replied that initially, Miss Selina was only pretending that she had everything, and that she already thought that she had become a full-fledged part of the imperial family. Other ladies in the room began to support her, and agreed that they had previously thought the same, sharing her doubts and skepticism. Despite all this, the girl did not want to put up with what was happening. She became very angry, continuing to claim that she received too little attention from Her Majesty. She thought she had become a princess, but if that was really the case, then it was time for her to return to reality. The world around her demanded that she realize the real state of things and did not allow her to immerse herself in dreams. If Luana had known about this, she would have been stunned. Her sense of surprise and confusion would have been immediately apparent. Such news could not have passed her attention and would have caused a strong reaction. The girl was shocked when she heard everything about Luana. She was told that it was Luana and her entourage who heard the conversations in the Empress's palace, and this made her listen carefully to every word. It was said that Her Majesty took care of Luana as if she were her own daughter. Moreover, Luana herself treated the girl to cookies, which further strengthened the image of a real princess in the eyes of those around her. She looked more like a real princess than anyone else. This fact seemed indisputable and commanded respect, distinguishing Luana from other girls with her special behavior and manners. The girl got angry when she heard talk about Luana again. She was tired of the constant discussion of this topic. She was tired of enduring how everyone around her only talked about Luana. She couldn't understand how people dared to insult her. She felt injustice and resentment because the words spoken behind her back seemed unfair and harsh to her. She couldn't believe that, without her aunt, she was nothing. The thought that her importance depended entirely on her relative was painful and made her doubt her own worth. Auntie smiled very widely when she saw the cookies from Luana. This smile expressed joy and warmth, showing how important this small gesture of attention and care from Luana was. This smile was unique, as if the light was shining from her light hair, which was considered a symbol of the imperial family. The hair seemed to be a ray of hope and greatness, inherent only to representatives of this family. Perhaps she felt much more love for Luana than for Selina. Selina could not understand how she ended up in this place where everything seemed foreign and unfamiliar to her. She had just a little bit left to go, just a little bit closer, but still she could not get to the Empress herself, as if an invisible barrier separated her from Her Majesty. She chose this place because she believed that she would never allow Luana to be hurt. At that moment, her thoughts turned to her father, as if trying to find support and understanding from him. The father was confused and could not understand what exactly had happened and why the girl was crying so much, leaving him bewildered and worried. The girl demanded that he ask the Empress to banish Princess Luana. He had to explain to her that he was doing this for a reason, but because the Empress's cousin insisted on it. The father advised the girl not to worry too much, to calm down, but she did not understand why the Empress treated her like that. In her eyes, she was better than that princess, and she could not understand the hostility. The father warned the girl that she should not speak so loudly and boldly, especially in the presence of others. He believed that she should be more careful and not attract unnecessary attention to herself with such words. Finally, the next day arrived. Everything seemed calm, but inside, the girl's doubts and anxiety were still raging. She waited for what would happen next and what events would happen today. The Empress wondered how Liliana would react to the latest news. She was interested in the girl's feelings and behavior, because this could change a lot in future events. The maid reported that the search for Princess Leviana was ongoing. Although they kept it a secret at this point, no one knew exactly where the princess was or what condition she was in. The Empress looked at the statements carefully and said that she was going to go to the budget to inform them about the winner and further orders. This decision was an important step for her. She decided to talk to her son Ludon, the crown prince. It was a serious conversation that could influence the future fate and course of events in their family and state. The girl noticed that Maria was looking closely at one of the wardrobes, and this surprised her. It seemed that something unusual was happening, and the girl tried to understand the reason for such attention. Maria began to lay out the clothes, and the girl did not understand where so many outfits came from. It all looked strange and unusual, as if some important ceremony or event was being prepared. Maria promised to tell all the details later, but already now she asked the girl which of the outfits she liked the most. It was a moment of choice that could mean a lot to the girl. The girl confidently said that everyone understands perfectly well where this is all leading, but she herself cannot yet fully understand everything that is happening and does not understand all the details of the situation. Then Maria said that she brought with her the clothes she wore as a child, hoping that they would be suitable for current events and would be able to help the girl cope with the task. But as expected, these old clothes did not fit. They turned out to be completely different from what the situation required, and the girl realized that she would have to look for something else. Therefore, when the right moment comes, the girl will not be called to the designer, but she will have many other beautiful clothes. It is strange that Maria did not do this earlier, because she could have helped right away. It's likely that the girl simply doesn't want to show her body, because she feels something insecure or imperfect about herself, and this prevents her from opening up and accepting herself completely. The girl is worried that rumors will start circulating around, and it seems that Maria is also worried about the possible consequences and does not want unnecessary conversations. So she approached Maria and asked if they were going somewhere, and Maria confirmed that they were indeed planning to go out, and that the event was just around the corner. His Highness announced that the Empress was inviting them all to dinner. This news caused a slight excitement, since an invitation from the Empress herself was a great honor and an event of special importance. The girl was very surprised to learn of the upcoming dinner with the Empress Maria. The head maid told her about it, saying that it was a secret, and she learned about it from Emma, who herself kept the news a secret. The girl was sure that the Empress liked her cookies very much. In her opinion, she had never seen anything more exquisite and beautiful than those little sweets that she had prepared herself with great care. However, she doubted her assumptions and believed that Maria was exaggerating a little. Nevertheless, the girl was truly happy that the Empress liked her cookies, and this filled her heart with pride and happiness. Despite this, she decided that she would try to make the clothes even more beautiful for the lady to please her and to match the high level of the upcoming event, because the imperial court demanded a special appearance. Maria asked the girl if she liked any of the proposed dresses to help her make a choice. This was an important moment, because the choice would determine her image at the celebration. Luana looked carefully at all the dresses that were offered to her. She noted that each of them was beautiful and elegant, and it was difficult for her to choose, as all the options seemed worthy and attractive. At some point, she looked away and noticed a very beautiful dress, which immediately caught her attention with its elegance and unusual cut. This dress stood out from the rest. The girl decided that this was the dress she wanted to choose for the upcoming event. It seemed to her the most suitable, emphasizing her beauty and the solemnity of the moment. She quietly asked if she could choose this particular dress, since it was the most beautiful of all that had been shown to her. Her gaze lingered on the dress that particularly attracted attention. Maria smiled and said that it seemed that they had the same tastes. She also liked this outfit more than all the others, and she was sure that the girl's choice was very successful and stylish. The girl explained that today she can only afford this dress because now she does not have enough money to immediately collect a whole collection of clothes, but in the future, everything will change. Maria assured that this was not a problem, because His Highness was a very wealthy man, and the Emperor left him a large inheritance, thanks to which they would be able to afford a lot. She added that they will eventually be able to buy clothes without restrictions, and admitted that sometimes she feels like she does it too often and too much, but for the sake of beauty, it is worth it. But despite this, Luana wanted to help and did not want to remain in debt to Buzova. She wanted to show independence and responsibility so as not to look weak. In any case, there was little time left, So the girl understood that she needed to quickly prepare dress beautifully and go to the reception with the empress as soon as possible. The girl wondered if she would really be able to get into the palace and see her mother. She was afraid that someone important would find out. But Maria explained that the empress was her mother, and that made everything easier and more official. Although she was born to the emperor's concubine, her status did not change. The girl was still considered a princess, and this title was undisputed, despite the complicated family relationships and origins. His Highness confirmed that this was indeed the case, and that there was no need to worry about trifles. His confidence helped to dispel doubts, showing that the girl's position was protected and respected. The girl smiled, but she still felt uneasy. Her uneasiness was due to the fact that she did not want to seem ungrateful to those who were kind to her. Such an attitude seemed wrong to her. Maria suggested not to delay and to prepare quickly. After some time, they were already completely ready. Everything was thought out and organized for the important meeting. The girl couldn't believe what was happening. She looked so beautiful that it seemed unreal to her to be the one who would stand before important people. She admitted that she really liked the dress. All that was left was to choose shoes, and Maria began looking for a suitable pair, insisting that they be red. Hearing about the color red, the girl was a little scared. This shade caused her a strange feeling of anxiety, as if something bad could happen. She remembered a terrible dream that she had temporarily forgotten. Now the visions came back to her mind and made her feel anxious and unsure. In the dream, the room was filled with blood. Death reigned. The mother stood in red shoes. It was this sight that left horror and fear in the girl. The girl asked Maria not to choose red shoes to avoid such a danger. At that moment, the crown prince entered and said that if she did not like the shoes, she did not have to wear them at all. The girl was genuinely surprised to see him nearby, and Maria noted that the situation looked good. However, she added that they still needed to get outside somehow to continue their business. She explained that shoes are not necessary for going outside, because he will be wearing the girl all day. Therefore, shoes are not needed in this case, and you can do without them. Maria noticed that the shoes were very beautiful and would go well with the girl's dress, so she suggested that she take a closer look at them, because the harmony of the image is important. However, the prince expressed the opinion that the shoes were not necessary because Her Majesty was already waiting for them, and therefore it was worth going immediately without wasting time on fittings and doubts. Maria asked with confidence if the prince was really sure that it was worth leaving everything as it was and not changing the decision at the last moment, because this could affect the plan. Then, Adam took Maria by the hand and said that she needed to understand the girl and accept her opinion, because it was obvious that she didn't like the shoes, and this was worth paying attention to. Adam added that the girl doesn't like them, and that's why Maria should respect her choice and not insist on her own in order to maintain the child's comfort and good mood. Maria expressed understanding of the situation. She listened carefully, realizing that it was important to wait a little and not rush things. Adam, in turn, noted the need for patience and time to sort everything out correctly. This came as a complete surprise to Maria. She had not expected to hear something like this, and her surprise turned into real shock. Her thoughts were confused, because such news was extremely unusual and required a thoughtful response. Despite everything, Maria felt that one day she would be able to fully trust this girl. This feeling arose because of the sincerity and openness in her words, which could not leave anyone indifferent. The prince asked the girl if she really didn't like the shoes that much. She wanted to understand if the reason was in the product itself or if something else was preventing it from making her happy. The girl admitted that the shoes were very beautiful and attractive. Her words indicated that the shoes had everything that should be liked, but there was another side. However, when the girl saw the color red, she felt a sense of heaviness and discomfort. This shade caused her internal resistance, which did not allow her to enjoy the shoes. The answer was a firm decision. From that moment on, there would be no more red shoes. This promise lifted the burden off the girl, because now she could be calm and not worry. The girl was delighted and immediately asked whether she would really be allowed to give up her red shoes forever. Her joy was sincere, because such a question was of great importance to her. He confirmed his word, but the girl noted that he should not try to please her too much. Despite this, he did not quite agree with her opinion and wanted to show his care in a different way. He reminded her that the girl was a princess, and no one had the right to dictate to her what to do. This was an important reminder of her status and freedom of choice, which no one should limit. The girl carefully asked if all this would affect her mother, worried about her loved one, and hoping to receive comfort or clarity in such a disturbing situation. The crown prince replied that Liliana would not be around at that moment, so there was no need to worry trying to calm the girl down and dispel her fears. He added that even if the situation changes, he will definitely take care of her safety and will protect his mother from any threats. At that moment, Adam, the prince's chief assistant, approached and confirmed that he would also do everything to protect the girl, regardless of the circumstances. The prince noticed that Adam's words sounded strange and advised him to move away so as not to create additional tension. The girl felt her anxiety gradually disappear, giving way to confidence and a sense of security that the prince and his assistant gave her. The imperial palace was an important place where the girl often appeared, because it was there that the empress carried out most of her duties. She had a difficult and important job on her shoulders, which required her full dedication and attention in this huge and austere palace. Soon the public began to discuss the fact that the crown prince, known for his coldness, was holding a little girl in his arms, which caused surprise and gossip. Many recognized her as a child with light blue eyes and light hair, since they had seen her before, and this girl was familiar to someone. They simply could not believe their eyes. Princess Luana really stood before them. Her image was so unusual that it seemed as if she had come from paintings or fairy tales. She was born into a family similar to the empress, and this confirmed many things. The crown prince, known for his cold and reserved character, surprisingly showed concern for her, which was not quite typical for him. The girl immediately felt a lot of eyes on her, as if they were riveting attention to her. This made her feel a little uncomfortable, as if she had become the center of everyone's attention without her own desire. Someone noticed her embarrassment and suggested removing everyone who was watching her closely to relieve her of unnecessary discomfort and make her feel calmer. The girl asked again what exactly he meant, and heard in response that many people around her were looking at her very intently and even crystal clearly, as if studying her every gesture and movement. She admitted that this was nothing new to her, and then asked who the young man was standing in front of them, attracting as much attention as she did. They explained to her that this was Duke Esteban, an important and influential figure. The girl asked if the crown prince knew this man, to which he confidently confirmed his acquaintance. He also reassured her that there was no need to worry about the duke's presence, although the girl still felt a strange sense of déjà vu, as if she had already met this man before. Inside, she tried to understand where exactly she got this feeling from. Something deeply familiar was hidden behind this look, but she couldn't understand it right away. At this moment, one of the maids, noticing the princess in the crowd, wondered in surprise why such an important person was here among ordinary people, which was extremely unusual. She left quickly to urgently convey this news to Liliana. Realizing that the situation required a quick response and explanation, the girl said with admiration that the place looked simply incredible. She noted how beautiful and refined everything was here, as if it was created for a fairy tale. Her eyes were shining with impressions. The prince explained that there was a special reason for such luxury. The empress wanted to convey her power and grandeur through the palace, so all the decorations and ornaments were done on a grand scale. The girl was surprised to notice that she had not known one important detail before. It turned out that the first empress was an elf, and this explained the extraordinary beauty and mystery of the palace. She admitted that she had not heard about this before. It was a surprise to her that the empress was actually an elf, a creature that differed from ordinary people in its appearance and magic. The girl learned that the first empress married the first emperor, and their union became the foundation of a dynasty that united the two races and made the empire strong and majestic. Their happiness was so great that they built exactly this palace for him, a symbol of eternal love and harmony, reflecting the idea that their union would last forever, like the stones and walls around them. The girl was amazed to realize that elves really existed in their world. The prince confirmed this, adding that elves were different from humans by nature. They were more refined and had special abilities. Thanks to the empress, they often managed to keep in touch. He promised that he would soon introduce her to them personally when the right moment came. It would be an important event for everyone. The girl was simply delighted with this news. She had never even heard of them, and now she was eagerly awaiting the meeting, which promised to open a new world for her. Because of this, she immediately asked when she would be able to see these people. He replied that most likely it would only happen at the party next year. Suddenly, the princess noticed that someone was approaching her. This person began to greet her, and she realized that a new acquaintance would soon begin. The maid carefully asked if the princess would mind if she gave her a tour of the palace to show her all the important places and rooms. The prince said that she should follow him to turn off the light and added that such appearances here were common for them. Everything happened calmly. The girl's name was Terrain. She smiled and apologized for the unexpected interruption, showing politeness and goodwill in her communication. Taran explained that she thought they looked so happy, and she didn't want to disturb them with her appearance. The prince thought it was a joke, but still asked where his mother was now, because he wanted to meet her. Taran replied that when she learned of his arrival, the empress had already gone to the kitchen to prepare dinner for him, a manifestation of care and hospitality. The girl asked if they were going to be late for their appointment, with a slight worry in her voice. She wanted to be sure that everything was going according to plan, and that no one would be late. The importance of the moment did not allow her to wait calmly. Taran explained that they had arrived 10 minutes earlier than the appointed time, and so there was no need to worry. She tried to calm the girl down, reminding her that punctuality was their strong point, and everything was going as it should. The girl understood the explanation in general, but still found the situation a little strange. Her thoughts were confused, because usually everything went differently, and she was not used to such a precise and friendly attitude from those around her. Her position as a concubine's daughter made it seem as if the empress's servants would treat her with hostility. She expected hidden hostility and coldness, since her mother's status was far from high. However, in reality, everything turned out to be the opposite. Everyone was very kind and courteous. Despite her doubts, the girl felt that the people around her did not hide their goodwill and treated her with respect. She began to think that if she continued to behave as she did now, she would be able to earn people's trust and even win them over thanks to their kindness and attention. Her inner world gradually began to change. At the same time, she knew she was using this kindness for her own purposes, to survive in an environment where she wasn't entirely welcome. This made her feel like she was doing something wrong, like she was betraying their trust. Suddenly, the prince noticed her thoughtful and tense expression and asked what had caused such a change in mood. His question was unexpected, and he was trying to understand what was troubling the girl. He added that mother did not eat her, meaning no one was going to harm her, and therefore she could relax and not be afraid of others. These words were supposed to dispel her fears and tension, but the girl still did not know how to behave properly when communicating with the prince. At this point, the empress reminded Loudon that he should speak about his sister more politely, emphasizing the importance of respect and etiquette in their circle. The prince noticed that she knew his character well. He had such a character that it was almost impossible to change. He admitted that he tried, but he could not really change himself. Luana approached the prince and asked if she could say something to the empress. She wondered if it would be right to share her thoughts or feelings with the prince's mother. The empress looked at them and noticed that they didn't look too cute together, as if they were straight out of a painting. Her words were a little mocking, but with a hint of warmth. Emma agreed with the empress that their appearance was indeed unusual. In response, the prince asked to stop the idle talk and switch to more important matters. He said that they sat down here, and he took the princess on his lap. It was a calm and cozy moment that made everyone relax a little. The girl didn't understand what was going on. She couldn't check why he didn't like it. When people said good words about him, it seemed strange to her. Everyone was interested in whether the Highness would hold her in his arms, because a comfortable chair had been prepared for the girl in advance, so that she would be comfortable. Then the empress noticed that Luana was not wearing shoes. Loudon replied that she did not need shoes, because he carried the princess in his arms, and it was more comfortable for her. The girl was surprised that he thought it was normal to talk to his mother like that. It seemed unusual and a little funny to her. What was on the glass looked absolutely amazing. The girl asked if it was really for her and couldn't believe such generosity. The Empress firmly said that it was impossible to even think that this was not for her. Everything was intended specifically for her, and there should be no doubt. The food was delicious, and the prince helped the girl eat carefully, feeding her with a spoon. It was a tender and caring moment that everyone remembered. The Empress thought that she herself would also like to feed the girl to show her care and attention. Her thoughts were on how to best please Luana and make the moment cozy and pleasant. She asked Luana if she wanted to stay there and explained that she was not sure if the girl would like the dish she had prepared. However, the Empress tried to prepare something special just for her. Suddenly, a man burst into the room, his appearance betraying great excitement. He immediately turned to the Empress, trying to convey important news that seemed to require immediate attention. The man looked frightened, and the Empress immediately asked what had happened and why he was so agitated. She listened carefully, trying to understand the essence of the problem and assess the seriousness of the situation. Then the man tried to calm the Empress, assuring her that everything would soon be fine. His words were full of confidence, and the Empress immediately realized that the situation was under control, although it required attention. He explained that the guest had not appeared by chance, and the prince noticed that there was an important guest in the castle at the moment. This added even more tension to the situation and made everyone be on guard. The girl thought that all this unrest was caused by her presence, that her defiant behavior could have provoked the situation. Then the Empress apologized to her for any inconvenience and awkwardness. The Empress reassured the girl, saying that she could trust her and wait there calmly until everything was resolved. She assured that she would return soon and take care of everything so that the girl would feel safe. It all happened because she really wanted to spend time with her daughter, whom she hadn't seen for a long time and really missed. This desire was sincere and permeated her every word and gesture. The girl was deeply shocked because she had never heard such a confession even from her own mother. It was as if this word sounded for the first time, causing surprise and confusion in her. She decided to agree, but at the same time, she felt a slight fear and uncertainty in her soul, since everything that was happening was new and unpredictable for her. The Empress reassured her by telling her that they would be able to see each other a little later, and this promise brought a little hope and relief to the tense atmosphere. The girl could not understand why such a strange feeling appeared inside her, as if something heavy had fallen away, leaving a place of lightness and peace. This feeling probably arose because somewhere nearby, there was someone who sincerely protected and guarded her, and this invisible support gave her strength. The Empress demanded to immediately find out where the courtesan was at the moment, since her location was very important for further actions. The maid had previously reported this information to Lady Liliana, and she had become furious, not hiding her indignation and dissatisfaction with the situation. Liliana doubted the veracity of what she heard and demanded confirmation, not understanding how the courtesan could have gotten the opportunity when the crown prince took Luana to the Empress's palace. She insisted that the maid read aloud another inscription containing important information in order to understand all the details of the situation. The documents clearly stated that the Empress's palace now had complete control over all matters related to Luana. She was losing her previous independence, and power over her life was transferred to the hands of the Empress. All matters concerning Princess Luana are now under the control of the Empress's palace. The Empress takes full responsibility for her fate, interfering in all aspects of the heiress's life. The Empress apologized very much for the fact that these documents were issued in this way. Liliana immediately asked where the head maid was at the moment in order to understand the situation in more detail. The maid who let Luana go with the prince has been called in for a talk. She is expected to explain and report on why she allowed them to leave without the palace's permission. Liliana thought that if she had been told everything at once, trouble could have been avoided. Timely information could have softened the situation and not led to a conflict. However, it seems that the palace intends to take strict measures against the maid. They want to show strictness and prevent such behavior in the future. The maid apologized and promised that she would return now with the palace representatives to fulfill all the demands and not create any more problems. Liliana was very angry about what was happening, and decided not to waste time arguing. She thought it was better to leave the situation as it was and not interfere further. She was helped to enter the Empress's palace secretly to avoid unwanted meetings and problems. This was important to maintain safety and not attract unnecessary attention. The escorts closely watched her every step. The Empress was stern and intended to punish Luana as soon as she returned. She believed that her daughter had greatly exceeded her authority by leaving without permission and did not understand how she could do such a thing with such disdain. His Highness turned his attention to Liliana and asked if she had any troubles. He noticed that she seemed worried and wanted to understand the reason for her anxiety so that he could help or at least listen. Liliana approached him calmly and explained that there were no real problems. She tried not to show her excitement so as not to disturb him and not to create additional tension in the situation. She convinced him that there was no point in worrying about trifles and advised him to rest. It was important to her that he save his strength and not waste his nerves in vain, because there could be more important things ahead. He understood her words and calmly stated that he was going to have a good rest. His intention was to restore his strength and mental balance in order to be ready for further events without unnecessary worries. Liliana was annoyed and angry about what was happening, because all the problems arose because of her daughter and the maid who let Luana go. She believed that these two were irresponsible and set her up. She was afraid that Luana might tell the Empress something unnecessary, especially when she was near her. Liliana understood that this could lead to serious consequences and worsen the situation with her daughter. However, this could not be allowed under any circumstances. Despite everything, she considered Luana a sacred daughter to her and did not want her fate to worsen because of some mistake. Since childhood, she taught Luana proper behavior and responsibility, so she was sure that the girl would not have been smart enough to act so rashly and leave without consulting her, especially at such an important moment. All she had to do was put in a little effort and use the console that was in front of her. The task seemed simple, but it required focus and determination to achieve the result. She was like a tamed animal, a small and vulnerable creature accustomed to obeying, but deep down with a will and fears of her own. That was her role in this world. The girl asked him where he was going, but he replied that it was not necessary to know, as if he was hiding something important, and did not want to share his plans. However, the girl insisted that if he was going with his mother, he should take her with him, because in such matters, one cannot leave loved ones without support. Maria explained that the lady should understand the situation, trying to wait for the gentleman to return, because he would return soon, and it would be better for her not to leave for him ahead of time. But the girl objected that it could be very dangerous if he went to meet her alone, because it was unknown what could happen there. Her mother was a cruel person, who even tried to harm her. Besides, she was probably angry because the girl disappeared without her knowledge or permission. She needed to explain everything thoroughly, because if the Highness met her now, she could take out all her anger on him, so it was better not to allow this for the sake of safety. The girl asked him to listen carefully to her request. He replied that he could not go there because it was too dangerous. Golden assumed that the little girl was worried about him and was afraid for his safety. He explained that she was much stronger than she thought, and therefore she should not worry so much. He suggested that she wait a little, promising that he would soon return to her and everything would be fine. The girl did not agree with his words and insisted on her own. At that moment, Maria approached them to calm her down a little and explain the situation more calmly. Maria said that they should just play together to take their minds off things, but at the same time, the girl shouldn't allow herself to become too anxious and panicky about what was happening. Liliana felt that she had no idea how much longer she would have to sit in this place and wait without any news. This tormented her more and more with each passing minute. It seemed that the Empress had a bad habit of making guests wait long and tediously without paying attention to their feelings and experiences. This only added to the irritation. The maid explained that it all happened because the concubine had come too early. She said that the girl should be grateful to the Empress for even allowing her to stay in the palace. Liliana responded by saying that it was the maid who should show more politeness and tact in such situations, and not just demand gratitude and patience. She couldn't get her head around the fact that she was being treated so cruelly and coldly just because she was called Scissors. It seemed like everyone around her only saw this label and wasn't ready to know who she really was. However, she was sure that those who thought so would be very surprised. Her power would manifest itself the moment her son took the throne of the emperor, and then no one would be able to stop them. The first task that stood before them was to completely destroy this old and cursed palace. Only in this way could they clear the way for a new era and forget all the grievances of the past. Soon she was informed that, after a long time, the empress herself had arrived. This news caused her mixed feelings, because the long wait was coming to an end and changes were coming ahead. Liliana was shocked to see the crown prince sitting next to the empress. His appearance was a surprise to her, as she had not expected to see him in such a setting. She thought that the prince did not care about Luana, and could not understand why he was here at all. In response, he noted that it seemed that she did not expect to see him here, and that this explained her surprise. She found it hard to believe that they were together in this place. She didn't know that he would be here too, although she herself had asked to arrange a meeting with the empress for important matters. The emperor asked why Liliana was so eager to see the empress. He suggested that it would be best to tell the truth. She wanted to resolve everything quickly and close the matter once and for all. Unlike Liliana, the empress was too busy with important matters to find time for idle talk. Her schedule was packed to the brim, and she considered such topics unimportant. Liliana reported that her daughter was missing. The empress responded by saying that she had already made a certain deal that concerns this situation and could help resolve the problem. All the details were laid out in the document that the empress sent through the gatekeeper. This document contained important information and conditions that Liliana had to study carefully. Liliana claimed that she was the one who gave birth to the daughter, and no one had the right to question it. However, she understood that the guardian had to manage the money, and by law she could not be appointed as a guardian. She emphasized that Luana was not even interviewed, and her opinion was not taken into account, so the girl had to stay with her mother, who always took care of her. Liliana insisted that the empress had no right to take Luana away from her, because the mother is the main figure in the child's life, and only she has the right to decide where she should be. The empress, however, declared that Luana was a princess, and her place was in the palace. She took full responsibility for the girl's fate, emphasizing her status and power in this matter. Liliana never stopped insisting that she was the one who gave birth to and raised Luana, and no title could deprive a mother of the right to be with her daughter and make decisions for her. The prince doubted her words and asked if she really considered herself a mother. He noted that with such an attitude towards the child, without love and care, it is difficult to call her a real mother, and even doubted her belonging to the daughter. Liliana exploded with a scream, declaring that no one had the right to take her child away from her. She was firmly convinced that she was right and was not going to give in without a fight, insisting on her own. Liliana did not accept the current situation because Luana had been fearful and weak since childhood. Perhaps now she was afraid of being left without her mother. Therefore, Liliana demanded that the girl be returned as soon as possible, while everything could still be resolved peacefully. The prince was surprised by Liliana's impudence, that she allowed herself to threaten him. He didn't care who exactly the daughter was. Other circumstances and care for the child were more important to him. The prince stated that if Liliana did not know how to properly raise Luana and did not show care for her, then she did not deserve to be called her mother and lost all rights to raise hers. He suggested that Liliana look at the documents which described in detail the girl's state of health, which was recorded during her stay in the palace with her mother. All the medical indicators were extremely bad for a child of her age, which clearly indicated that the girl had suffered from neglect. Therefore, it was decided that from today on, Luana would remain under their care. If Liana returns all the funds that were once allocated for the princess, then a lot will change. This money could help to correct the situation and restore the lost trust. Returning the funds will be an important step in restoring justice. Liliana began to laugh, not understanding why she was considered a bad mother. She thought it was because she was a concubine or because of other rumors. In her eyes, the accusations seemed unfair and unfounded. However, she had something important to say, even though she didn't want to. The words came with difficulty, but circumstances forced her to reveal the truth that she had long hidden from everyone around her. The Empress insisted that Liliana confess that she knew about her dead daughter. It was because of this grief that she began stealing children from others, trying to fill the void left in her heart by the loss. The Crown Prince turned back and noticed someone in the crowd. His gaze fell on a figure that immediately attracted attention with its haste and uncertainty in its movements. It was Liliana herself who, upon seeing him, began to run. The Crown Prince decided to pursue her to find out the reason for her escape and perhaps to help sort out the situation. On the way, he noticed small slippers left on the floor. It was immediately clear to whom they belonged. It was a detail that could tell a lot about what was happening and tie all the events together. Maria had already approached Mrs. Luana with a request earlier. It was already noon, and the girl was still sleeping, unable to wake up and meet a new day full of unexpected events and experiences. She absolutely must eat what Maria brought. As soon as she wakes up, food will be the first step to restoring the strength and mood that are so necessary after a long and restless sleep. Perhaps the girl was sad because His Highness had left. Therefore, it was decided not to disturb her once again and to give her the opportunity to rest peacefully, wishing her sweet dreams and peace. As soon as Maria left the room, the girl immediately got out of bed. Sleep could no longer hold her, and she was ready to meet a new day full of hopes and unknown challenges. If anyone thinks that she gave up or resigned herself, they are deeply mistaken. Inside her burned determination and strength that allowed her to fight against difficulties and not give up no matter what. She could make people believe in her words and support her next to her mother. This faith and strength became a support for her, which helped her move forward without losing hope and faith in the best. She made the decision to run away and find them later, despite her fears. It was her plan to leave and find them as soon as she could. She couldn't stay where she was. For the first time, she had to leave the palace alone without an escort or support. This step seemed scary and new, because before she had always been under supervision. She felt lost, because she didn't know where exactly to go. There were only walls around her, and fear and doubts in her heart that didn't give her peace. She had passed the same place several times before, but she had never been able to find the right path. It seemed like the space around her was repeating itself, as if it wouldn't let her go any further. She was afraid that the maids might catch her, because she didn't know where those she was looking for might be. Now anxiety and worry grew in her head. She thought of Maria, the head maid, who was probably already looking for her. Perhaps she should go back, but she had come too far to give up. The prince's words came to mind, saying that he was much stronger than he seemed. This made her calm down a little and believe that all was not lost. She knew she couldn't leave the crown prince with his mother, even if he was as strong as a cloud responsibility, and anxiety didn't let her go. Suddenly, she noticed drops of water that she did not immediately understand. It was something unusual that caught her attention and made her freeze. It seemed right to her to follow the drops, even though she didn't understand where they were leading. The decision was not easy, but her intuition told her to go forward. She wondered what kind of place the drops led to and who could fly there. Fear and curiosity intertwined in her soul, holding her back from moving. After a few steps, she saw her mother, the Empress, and this was what she had been waiting for so long. She finally found them, although her heart was beating hard. She was interested in what her mother was talking about with the others, and she quietly approached closer, trying not to give herself away or attract attention. She heard her mother speak of the Empress's dead daughter. The words were heavy and filled with much pain and loss. The mother explained that the Empress wanted to see children like her dead daughter around her. This created a strange atmosphere of expectation and sadness. The girl realized that all this was connected with her, and fear arose in her soul. She felt like she was the cause of the difficulties and worries. She turned around abruptly and started to run away, realizing that she had gotten the prince and empress into trouble. Her heart was clenched with guilt. While running, she lost one of her slippers. A small thing, but a symbolic sign of how hard things were for her. At first, she tried to survive using whatever was at hand, and received the love she felt she did not fully deserve. Appearing at the palace had initially seemed like a mistake, but now she increasingly thought that everything could have turned out differently. She wondered how she was different from this abandoned palace, why fate was so cruel to her, and what awaited her next. They seemed completely useless, but that was far from true. In fact, each of them had an important role to play, as would soon become apparent. Their actions, though seemingly small, were of great importance. The girl looked at the newcomer and asked who it was. In front of her stood a girl who was, in fact, her adult reflection. Like herself, only already grown up and experienced. It seemed as if the 18-year-old Luana from her dream was standing before her. This adult version was mysterious and seemed to hold the key to what awaited the girl in the future. The girl explained that perhaps she did not remember their meeting, and that was even good oblivion allowed her to avoid unnecessary complications and keep important events secret. The girl couldn't understand why she was saying that. Then the older girl explained that it was because she was going down a different path. Her future was different from what the older girl had seen, and it was entirely up to the girl herself. After these words, the adult girl left, and the girl was stunned. Everything happened suddenly, as if someone opened a book and abruptly closed it, leaving many questions unanswered. The girl could not understand how the crown prince had suddenly appeared here. His appearance seemed unexpected, and a little strange in this place where they were. The prince asked her if she knew how long he had been looking for her. His voice was tired and persistent, as if he had overcome many obstacles to meet her. The girl replied that she was sorry, but she did not want him and the empress to have problems because of her. She was afraid that her presence could lead to trouble and complicate their lives. The girl was brought here and treated with care and respect, but she tried not to disturb those around her and behaved modestly as if she did not deserve their attention and warmth. She sincerely could not believe that they would allow her to stay, that she was truly worthy of this new home and their kindness, because for a long time she felt like an outsider. The prince could not understand why this should be important to him, because regardless of the circumstances, she remained his sister bound to him forever. Hearing this, the girl could not hold back her tears. For her, this house became her home, a place where she has the right to do whatever she wants and feel safe. When he took her hand away, she felt warmth in her soul, and it melted her heart, making her cry out loud from the first real sense of concern. She was deeply grateful for his attention and support, because she never expected that someone could treat her so warmly and truly as a human being. When she woke up, she didn't immediately understand where she was. The world around her seemed unfamiliar and strange, as if she had found herself in another dimension. The crown prince was surprised that she had already woken up, because he expected that she would still need rest and peace. He thought it was too early to get up, and considered it necessary to give her the opportunity to remain in peace and warmth for a little while longer, to gain strength. It seemed as if she was actually falling asleep. Her breathing became more even, her eyelids slowly lowered, and the tension in her body gradually disappeared, giving way to the peace and rest that she so needed. Maria was a little surprised that His Highness was still here. Usually he left the chambers rather quickly, but now his presence seemed something important and unexpected at the same time. The prince asked for silence, because the girl was not fully awake yet. His voice was soft, and his attention to every detail showed how much he cared about the child's peace and her rest. The girl cried long and hard, so it was better to give her a chance to finally get some sleep. Having rested, she would be able to regain her strength and stop suffering, which was the most important thing for everyone around her. Maria smiled, noticing how the prince showed care and tenderness. His attention to detail and desire to protect the girl spoke of a deep feeling that he did not hide from others. She looked at the sleeping girl and saw how she was resting peacefully, like a little angel enveloped in calm and warmth, giving those around her a sense of peace and hope. All the information about the princess's jewelry was provided. It contained information about the origin craftsmen and materials, which helped to understand the true value and significance of these jewels. All reports were prepared specifically because the crown prince demanded it. He was interested in complete and accurate information in order to have a full understanding of the situation and make the right decisions. First of all, he carefully checked all the traders who sold jewelry during a certain period. This helped to eliminate suspicions and identify possible dishonest actions. He also contacted the Information Guild, although it was quite easy to find the necessary data. The organization was well informed and provided all the necessary information without delay. The flower on the shield was clearly the work of the Esteban family. This symbol indicated ownership and history, which was important for understanding the origin and authenticity of the objects presented. He thought that only the Duke could weave his intrigues so cleverly, but it turned out that his son was no less cunning. Moreover, she was somehow connected with the girl he saw for the first time, and could not understand how exactly. It was clear that he could not be left unpunished. This act required a response, because the offender would not escape responsibility so easily, and the situation required decisive action. Maria couldn't understand why this conversation had suddenly become so strange and confusing. At the same time, there was something surprising in this strangeness, as if something important was gradually being revealed. The Mrs.'s behavior was very different from what one would expect from a real princess. There was neither royal restraint nor the usual majesty in her. Everything was completely different, and it was noticeable. He gave her an expensive bracelet, which seemed like a sign of special affection. This gesture made one wonder if it was true love or just an attempt to win her favor. Everyone was shocked by what they heard, and Maria could not help but notice that the lady looked really very beautiful and charming, which perhaps explained the attention they were giving her. Perhaps it was at first sight that he fell in love with her, because sometimes feelings are born instantly, and one cannot deny the power of the first impression, which can change a lot. But the prince said he was not going to ignore it, and asked Adam to find out all the details, including information about the Duke's son, so that he would have a full understanding of the situation. Although he did not want to resort to extreme measures, he had to agree to call this man in order to get answers and clarify all the ambiguities surrounding what was happening. Finally, the father managed to find Karan, which was an important step for further action, and gave hope for a resolution to the situation that had long been hanging over them like a cloud of uncertainty. The boy couldn't understand what exactly had happened and why his father was looking for him. He felt a certain anxiety, because usually such visits don't just happen without a reason or warning. The father explained that the Father of Light does not just come to his son. The boy noticed a hidden fear in his voice, a fear that his father would try to persuade him to go to the ball again. Karan was exhausted from the constant social events and had no desire to participate in another such event, which seemed to her a waste of time and energy. The gentleman suggested that it might be something important and necessary, but the guy didn't believe it and immediately asked to get down to business, not wanting to waste time on empty talk. The father started talking about the bracelet that the boy allegedly lost. The boy remembered that they had already discussed this issue and felt that the conversation was repeating itself. The father said that he had found out who had the bracelet, hearing. This the boy became scared, realizing that now his father knew who had actually received the bracelet. However, no one saw the guy give the bracelet to that girl, so it remained a secret for the others, and the guy hoped that it would remain so. Then the boy firmly said that his father should leave him alone, because he didn't need this bracelet and it had no value for him. They were lucky that the investigation concerned only the prince's men, and not the prince or princess themselves. This made the situation easier and gave them the opportunity to act calmly, without unnecessary pressure from the highest circles of power. He no longer doubted that the bracelet had indeed ended up with the princess. This opened up new possibilities and forced him to reconsider his previous guesses, since he now understood that the connection between them was much closer than it had seemed at first. The meeting with the Empress was not in vain. He dared to ask about the possibility of making the princess friends with his son. It was a subtle move aimed at strengthening the position of his family through close relations between children. The age difference between the princess and his son was insignificant, which made such a friendship quite natural. In addition, his son was obedient and disciplined, so he would not cause any problems for the princess and her entourage. The Empress made it clear that she did not intend to force communication between the children. She understood that their constant presence could be misinterpreted by those around them, which could lead to gossip and misunderstandings. The gentleman noted that this is why he considers his son the most suitable. He saw in him the one who would be able to take a worthy place next to the princess, thanks to his character and upbringing. His son had an attractive appearance and noble birth, and all the qualities necessary to become a suitable match for the princess. He was confident of this, and considered it his strong point. If their union took place, there would be no need to consider other candidates. This would free both the princess and their families from unnecessary problems and competition, which was beneficial to all interested parties. The Empress looked thoughtfully out the window, thinking that this would really help to get rid of the extra and unnecessary proposals that constantly interfered. Such a step seemed logical and timely to her. There was a deep meaning in this. Their friendship could be beneficial to both parties. After all, her son also receives many offers, and now the situation with this will improve a little. There will be no unnecessary fuss. If any rumors appear, they will quickly dissipate and disappear, because everyone around will already know the truth, and gossip will not be able to cause harm. The Empress promised that she would definitely think about this issue, and was confident that she would soon make a decision that would have a positive effect on everyone involved. This move is also beneficial to the princess herself, as she will be able to avoid unnecessary problems and maintain her reputation as well as strengthen her position at court and among the nobility. Besides, her son will be able to teach a lesson to that woman and her son, who constantly interfered in other people's affairs and behaved defiantly, violating order and decency. It may be just a plan now, but in the future, the princess may well become the first love, not only for him, but also for his son, which foreshadows a long and strong relationship. Gradually, one can begin to think about the future place for the prince, about his role, and the responsibilities that he will have to take on for the sake of the family and the state. However, something was bothering the guy from within, preventing him from feeling calm, as if an invisible weight was pressing on his soul, not giving him peace. The girl expressed a desire to meet the Empress, feeling that it would be very important for her. She dreamed of seeing her in person to better understand the greatness and significance of this person. Maria noticed that the girl just said it spontaneously, as if the thought had just popped out of her head. She thought that it wasn't worth thinking about it too much now, because everything was still ahead and time would tell. Maria noted that the girl was probably a little bored waiting, but Sir Adam, who was supposed to come, would appear soon. She was advised to be patient for a little while, and the situation should change soon. When Sir Adam arrived, he announced that he would bring gifts to the girl. This was unexpected news, and everyone understood that these gifts should bring her joy and surprise. The girl was simply shocked to hear about the gifts. Maria also noted that Sir Adam believed that she would definitely like these things and would be able to cheer her up. The girl noticed how much Maria was happy every time Adam was mentioned. It was evident in her eyes and smile. She clearly had special feelings for him. The girl wondered if Maria could tell her what kind of relationship she had with Adam, trying to understand more about what was going on between them. Maria immediately became very embarrassed and asked again what exactly the girl wanted to know. She was not ready to immediately reveal all the details, but she understood that curiosity was great. She asked carefully why the girl was so interested in this question. Her genuine curiosity was noticeable. She wanted to understand what exactly prompted the child to think about this. The girl explained that when she simply looks at them, they often meet each other's eyes and smile widely, as if there is something very important and bright between them. She admitted that she wanted to show everyone that everything really worked out well and happily for them, as if it were a wish coming from her small but sincere heart. At that moment, Adam entered with His Highness. He said he was glad to see them, and invited them in, expressing respect and goodwill, which immediately created a warm atmosphere. The girl hurried to Adam, and he quietly said that he was pleased to see her joy, noting how her smile illuminated the space around her like a small light. The prince noticed that the goalkeeper hardly paid any attention to her because of the gift, but the girl assured him that she and her brothers were very happy to meet, and that was more important than any other things. One would have thought the girl was talking about gifts, but she insisted that it was not about them. Her words reflected something deeper and more sincere that was not related to material things. She asked him what he thought of Maria, as if trying to understand how the head maid was perceived and how the relationships around her developed. At that time, Adam did not understand what exactly was being discussed, and Maria quietly explained to him that it was nothing serious. She said that it was not worth paying special attention to. Everything was quite normal. Adam replied that they should look at the gifts first, because that was the most important thing right now. He suggested focusing on that without being distracted by other little things. He said that he had given a gift that he considered a real masterpiece, a great work of art. In his opinion, it was this gift that deserved special attention. The girl asked again, not fully understanding his words. And at that time, Adam managed to put many more different gifts in her hands, trying to please her with variety. He admitted that he had not previously known what exactly she liked, and often brought strange things. But now he was sure that all his gifts would be to her liking. The girl didn't tell Adam about her preferences, but he said that after she baked cookies for him, he realized that their tastes were very similar. Having realized this, he decided that he would give her gifts more often, because now he knows better what can please and surprise her. She was shocked by what he was saying about these awkward, crooked cookies that she had made herself. She found it hard to believe that Adam could actually think that she liked such simple and unpretentious sweets. Adam explained that he made all these gifts with his own hands, and even though his sister interfered, he still completed the work, putting his whole soul into it. The prince did not immediately understand what exactly was in front of him. Maria, although a little surprised, remained calm and smiled, trying not to show her inner turmoil. Her smile seemed polite, but it hid a little confusion. He suggested that Mrs. try to open the gift. The girl was confused, not knowing where to begin the story about her tastes and preferences. It was difficult for her to explain what exactly she liked, especially in front of such attention from the prince. If the gift was really made in such a strange style as this one, it caused her fear and anxiety. The first thing she decided was to refuse it to avoid unpleasant consequences or misunderstandings. She noticed that the prince had obviously put a lot of effort into choosing the gift, and he probably felt bad about giving it to someone else. She felt that it was not at all necessary to accept this gift if she had doubts about it. But Adam said that it was not so at all. He was sure that the gift would be important to her, and if she accepted it, she would become much happier and more confident in herself. His words sounded insistent and encouraging. His gaze was full of hope and expectation. The girl had no choice but to open the gift despite her inner doubts and fears. Her indecision gradually gave way to curiosity. The prince noticed that the girl looked a little strange, as if unsure and nervous, so he offered to take a look at the gift first, to relieve the tension and make her feel more comfortable. The girl immediately became happy and agreed to his proposal. Her face lit up with a bright smile, and she felt that the situation had now become less tense and more pleasant for her. The prince noted that she had responded too quickly and suggested that she might not really like the gift. He sensed that behind her quick acceptance, there was some hesitation or reluctance to upset him. The girl warned that she shouldn't joke like that, because someone might misunderstand her words. Then the prince suggested that Maria try to open the mysterious box herself. The prince was confident that the strength of her love would withstand everything, but Maria quietly said that she would probably refuse this test, not wanting to take risks. The prince noticed that she did not deny her feelings, but the girl explained that it was not about love at all, but about a completely different, more complex problem. The girl mentioned Mrs. Luana, and then the prince realized that he himself needed to prepare his heart for what was to come, although he did not yet know how to do this. When he finally realized the seriousness of the situation, the prince was simply shocked by what was revealed to him, and he had to take a break to recover. Everything turned out exactly as he suspected. The truth was harsh and unpleasant, but now it had become an inevitable reality for him. The girl curiously asked what was in the box that caused so much anxiety and mystery to adults. The prince asked Maria to take the box and tear off the mysterious film to finally find out what was hidden inside. Adam couldn't understand what all this was for, and the girl asked to be allowed to look at the contents with them. Her brother immediately said that it was better not to, since it could harm her, and such secrets were better left aside. The prince strictly forbade bringing such things again, unless his sister did it in order to avoid further problems. The girl understood this warning and promised to take the prince's words into account in the future, so as not to upset anyone with her actions. Despite everything, the girl really wanted to know what was in that mysterious box, and she couldn't get rid of her feeling of curiosity. She felt a sense of guilt, because the gift was prepared especially for her, and she wondered if maybe she should accept it after all. The girl turned to her brother, reminding him of how much he had done for her, and stated that she wanted to accept the gift despite her misgivings. The prince replied decisively that under no circumstances should she accept this gift, even if it was intended for her to protect her. The prince asked what kind of gift she had in her hands, and was surprised why Maria did not keep an eye on such important things and did not warn them in advance. Maria noticed that he called it a doll and thought that it was made by a Luana, apologized to Adam, explaining that there was nothing she could do to change it or influence the situation. She also turned to him, saying that it was simply impossible to make such cookies. It was something unusual that required special skills and secrets that were not available to everyone. The prince advised Maria to carefully check the gifts that came from Adam. Next time, Maria understood his warning and promised to be more careful in the future. The girl admitted that she became very curious, but Maria sternly said that it was better not to find out the details, otherwise she would have terrible nightmares all night. The prince offered to give her something else, advising her to forget about the previous one. He hinted that this gift would be much better and that she should stay away from it. Despite the warnings, the girl still couldn't let go of her curiosity. She didn't understand what exactly could be hidden behind these mysterious words and promises. The prince had difficulty getting the gift, which was gold. As soon as it arrived, he immediately intended to give it to Luana. The gift was extremely rare and valuable. The girl was absolutely delighted with what they managed to get for her. She couldn't even imagine what exactly could be hidden in this unusual and expensive gift. It seemed that this item was so valuable that he was willing to give it to her without any hesitation. This proved how much he valued and respected her. He admitted that he had intended to buy this gift for her anyway. It was not just a random thing, but a carefully chosen sign of attention. Maria couldn't believe that he really wanted to give Luana that very book that had long been the stuff of legends and that many considered unattainable.